All right, we are live, and good afternoon again, folks. Welcome to Smudcast 828. This is part 2 of Skill Ups I Do Not Recommend Dragon Age the Veilguard review. And I just saw the IGN review, and if you go to that on YouTube, it was 2 days ago, actually. Every comment is negative. It's like 90% downvotes. It's hilarious. It is so funny. People are just bashing because they gave other great games of the year, like the Warhammer game that came out, like an 8 or a 7. And this game, they gave a 9. I just, it's terrifying to think IGN has this sort of bizarre, subjective mathematics that they just add numbers together. Oh yeah, this is a 9. And you have to thinking, how in the world can you possibly grade? Like, if this is a 9, what the hell is Dragon Age 2? What is Inquisition was like 8.7 or whatever they gave it. It's like it's better than Inquisition, really? That game.
Now, of course, there are no mathematics to come up with these ratings. They do it as the late what was his name? Yuri Maltsev explained when he was visiting other countries in the Union, and the people, the bureaucrats he visited to make the statistics, who didn't have any data and just wrote down random numbers. He asked, where did you even get the numbers from? And I opened the drawer. And at first I said, oh, well, you lean back in your chair and you look at the ceiling and there are the numbers. And then you write down the numbers.
Well,
he said, he looked up and he said, I don't see any ceilings, any numbers.
It is weird.
And he took out a bottle of vodka, put it on the table, said, you drink vodka, numbers come.
Well, if you look at OpenCritic and Metacritic and you try to get an aggregate of where these numbers are coming from, and anything that's close to 80%, you're like, okay, what exactly are they saying about this game? Because every time someone says something is good, it's either completely vapid or it's I like it. It's fun to me. And that's I like doing the thing. It's fun. It's like, yeah, but what are you doing? Explain the thing that's fun. Whereas you look at the people who disagree or dislike the game, and they explain why the gameplay isn't fun, why the cutscenes aren't very exciting, why the storyline isn't very compelling, why the characters are all pretty much the same. You're like, oh, geez, that sounds horrible. And I don't know who these other guys are saying this is good. Have they ever played a game? Have they ever reviewed a game? Have they ever played a Dragon Age game? Have they played an RPG fantasy genre? Have they ever played an action RPG? Like, I want to know their background. What are you comparing this to that this is fun, that you've never played a game before in your life? You're going, yeah, a BioWare game, fantastic. 9 out of 10.
Games journalists are not paid to play games. They're paid to write about games.
Well, this is what's scares me, because even the guy that I liked, that he gave it the best game of the year, I don't know what number he gave it, Mortis Gaming, I love his other reviews. They're very detailed. He did a lot of work on the Pathfinder games, which I still play today. They're so much fun. They're so detailed. They're hardcore D&D style games. And they're in the vein of Black Isle and Troika and that sort of style of people. And for him to go from that to this and say this is game of the year, I'm like, are you joking? Are you sure? Like, what is happening here? So I don't know what's going on with him. I would love to sit down and chat with him.
This is how people get into cults.
Well, a guy like him,
it feels like it. It really feels like it.
A guy like him, I don't think he's that complicated to get into a cult. Like, he wouldn't be that passionate one way or the other.
It's not about you don't necessarily get into a cult because you want to. Some people do.
All right. Anyway, let's not get
and some people are just oh god, everyone around me is insane, and if I don't start acting like them as well, I'll get into trouble. So yeah, I'm totally on board with you.
All right, okay, let's get started. Hawke will pop in eventually, and we're at 20 minutes and 5 seconds.
Before we go, of the stuff we had in the crew channel, you did read the NDA that got leaked?
No. What was that all about?
Oh my god! So in the NDA, there is the insistence that you have to mention that the game is return to form of the original, Dragon Age
Wait a
of
sec.
the original BioWare Corp, and the target audience of what was it, 25 to 34 something?
Really?
Yeah. And I know the people who played the first Dragon Age who remember BioWare Corp, they're even a bit older than that, but leave it at that. The other thing is that it has a demand that various topics are not mentioned, neither negatively nor that it is even present at all, which includes anything regarding homosexuality, transsexuality, woke, DEI, intersectionality. None of these terms must ever be used in your review.
Really?
So they completely forbade the reviewers to mention anything that is actually in the game. And the best one, and I called this out yesterday in the chat. I didn't expect this. This is insane. When you were doing the video yesterday, I called this looks like God of War Ragnarok. The same with the stupid puzzle thing. This doesn't look like Dragon Age. This is some Ragnarok clone. And in the NDA, it mentions that you are not meant to compare this to any non-Dragon Age game. Specifically not things like God of War, because it's totally not that, and we totally didn't take things from God of War or anything like it.
Huh.
It's specifically God of War. It's a stupid fucking clone. It's not Dragon Age. And it's inserted with these horrible dialogue that makes no sense with the characters.
Let's keep going with Skill Up's take, because his is pretty good and he covered a lot of things. So I'm glad he put this video together. Here we go.
And if these, I probably wouldn't mind all that much, but they are not good. They are boring and they are badly written, and they see you exploring all of the same locations you've already been to, fighting enemies and bosses you've already fought dozens of times before. It's a major shortcoming of this game. There is absolutely zero variety in mission design. It's all either walking behind your companion while they talk or killing enemies. There's no necromancy mission that sees you commanding an army of skeletons, no stealth mission with Lucanus to sneakily assassinate a target. You don't ever officiate over a joining ceremony with Davram and have to choose whether or not to execute a recruit who tries to flee. It's just lighting candles while someone talks or fighting.
He looks drunk.
80% of the time, it's just fighting. So all of this was a point about writing and how the structure of the game puts...
Is were the characters in Dragon Age always cross-eyed?
No. There were some events in Mass Effect where that happens, but not in Dragon Age.
It seems to be standard.
I don't know how that works, but yeah.
And on hold for huge stretches because the companion quest lines are not integrated into the main quest line, and that feels really outdated and results in some really poor pacing. And that's an example of the writing being hamstrung by the game's structure, but it also cuts a different way, which is that the structure often dictates the writing. There's multiple moments throughout the main campaign where the writing is saying aloud, "You are playing a BioWare game. Time to do some BioWare things." Like in this exchange when the team has just suffered a major setback and they're discussing why they weren't successful. Here's what they came up with.
I think we've all been distracted.
I've been preoccupied myself after discovering that hand of glory.
And I can't stop worrying about my new magic and what it means.
The Nodists are fallen? What it means for my people?
Until those problems are resolved, we will not be prepared to face the gods.
It's like, bro...
Oh god. We need to clear the quest log before we continue in the story.
Yeah, the end of the world
I
is
am
coming.
a video game.
The end of the world is coming. I gotta do my dishes, guys. I got this thing on the stove, and but I gotta finish that up, or the gods can wait. It's basic stuff.
So it's God of War Ragnarok, but with the BioWare decision wheel. The shitty one.
The end of the world. I gotta clean my linens, and there's a sale down
the gods trying to destroy the world surely can wait until until we went to that picnic
and polish our boots, or I don't know, something superfluous. What the?
But Emmerich, don't take too many books.
Yeah, I'm so concerned about.
Otherwise, we can't finish the quest and thus not later go to fight the gods to save the world.
I gotta go tell my mom I'm non-binary. It's like, that's really important to me. It's like, okay, but end of the world, we gotta hurry. Let's go. This sounds like.
I mean, Tash does look like a pouty child there.
Well, yeah.
Pouty, big, muscular child.
It's like they took things from games that, like Mass Effect 2 had the suicide mission, so it's like, oh, that's a good thing. Let's put that in our game so it's exciting and everyone likes it. And you're like, yes, we're gonna, like, this is the whole idea. Let's have missions just for our people before the end of the game, and that will affect. I'm sure that will affect how they perform in the non-suicide mission. Like all these silly things from previous games that make no sense in this context just because they worked in BioWare games, that we got to put those in now.
And I can tell you, in the early 2000s, I sat together with student groups that wanted to make video games, and there were, of course, your borderline blue hairs and green hairs and all these other weirdos. And you're one guy that actually knew how to program stuff. And the way they came up with the level of ideas they came up with, that was this kind of stuff. So this is a specific generation around the Western world that is only capable of coming up with pathetic, petty, mundane stuff like this, and think that they're doing the most amazing thing in the world in some epic super adventure, while also being super subversive and groundbreaking or whatnot, but while being whimsical. And none of these people should ever have gotten into any big company, or at least not for long. And certainly not at the head of writing.
I recall in my old Fixing Mass Effect 2 series that if we're going to have a suicide mission, the entire plot line should be about having like mini suicide missions or practicing and getting better and better, because that's essentially what a suicide mission is. It's like a heist movie. You get all the right people together, you train and practice in a simulation, and then because you know something's going to go wrong, and that's what all the Ocean's movies are all about. They're all heist movies. Mm-hmm. And they practice and practice and practice. When they finally get to the real thing, something screws up. Like, oh shit, what do? We got to improvise. That's the kind of game. If you're going to copy Mass Effect 2's formula, which is suicide mission and then interpersonal missions, then you got to focus, like laser focused on just that one thing. And if it's as big as they say, like stopping gods, then you got to crank that up as high as you can go. So if they don't do that, it's just like, oh, I read some books and I don't know what's going to happen to my subscription to New York Post. It's like, what the hell?
I'm sure we can beat the gods after this dinner and dessert and then doing the dishes and putting them all back properly into the shelves.
Yeah, like your Hercule Poirot, you need all your books in an order, 1, 2, 3, all in alphabetical order. He's like, oh, now I can solve the case. It's like, really?
Look, these people can't even pull the tablecloth straight.
Yeah, I know. It's okay when it's Mass Effect 2 and everyone's in their little cubby hole on the ship and they all have their own problems. They don't care about other people, and that's kind of the point. And he's like, okay, let's go to another part of the galaxy because we have light speed or faster than light speed, and we can solve it in 20 minutes and we can come back here. Fine, let's do it. This is like, oh, I got some chickens. Oh, I got some friends. I got a family member. It's like all these stupid daddy issues we have to deal with. Mm-hmm. And it's just so mundane, so silly. I just wish they incorporated that into the plot more. Then we could argue, oh, was that a good way of rendering was it forced? Did it feel forced? Did it look forced even though it was plot-centric? Like, that's the kind of argument I want to have, not I want to go blow up a base I was raised as a child in because it has horrible memories and Jack's like crazy. So, okay, she's a psycho. She wants to blow stuff up. That's like, okay, makes sense. But it's still kind of silly. It has nothing to do with anything.
I also feel it necessary to note that almost everyone here has posture damage, which is, this kind of posture damage is a new age type of thing. That's a modern world problem of sedentary lifestyle and working on a desk all day and sitting at your computer all day and sitting on the couch and playing your video game console all day. Yeah. And these people would not have this. The one who would be closest to having this would be Emmerich, because he's a fucking bookworm. But since he's the most posh aristocratic guy, he doesn't. Yeah. But all the people who shouldn't, all the warriors, nope. They don't have, they can't stand up straight.
Maybe the magical assassin guy who could turn it, he has like magical wings or whatever. Maybe he could change his spinal column. I don't know.
Look at the hunchback on the left and and on the right.
They're all bending over. Anyway, let's try and keep going here.
Just listing side quests at this point and being like, if we don't solve these problems, we're not going to be at our A game. Like, does that really need to be said aloud? But it's something that they say again later on in a separate meeting.
Our arguments are personal problems. It's as Emmerich says. They hold us back.
No, they don't.
No game, no role-playing game ever that I played did this. And I played a couple. None of these ever said, oh, we must first serve all our personal quests before we continue. What the... Maybe some UI bullshit would do that, but not the characters themselves. This is the game being self-referential.
It is weird.
This is fourth wall breaking, or at least it's fourth wall scratching.
It's kind of like we're all in this together, guys. But you know what? I've got things on my mind, and so do you. And if we don't talk to a therapist or get some resolution to our missing XYZ heirloom, we can't fight God. You're like, why?
You know what games in the past did? They gave you these things optionally. You don't need to do them. You're then missing out on something, maybe, and a character improvement or something. But you can progress anyway.
Yeah, if it was like Lucanus needs to unlock some magical spell that his pseudo-self or whatever he's got possessed by, which would make him stronger, then you'd be like, oh, that makes sense. We got to beef you up and level you up and do the thing to get you stronger. Perfect. Let's do it. Not, oh, I got some psychological damage. I need to go talk to my mom for a good hour. It's like, why are you doing this now? Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you here? We are a soldier on my team. You either die for me or you get the heck out of here. I don't have time for this crap. No one in the military would ever deal with this. They would cut their losses and say goodbye to you. And hire you have all this money. I'm sure we just hire a soldier. It's like, yeah, you're our new Lucanus. You can go kill people better than he can because you're not going to give me bullshit about personal issues.
The other thing is that today, most of these games, the big games from all the big companies that all make them like this, they all shove the special character missions in your face. While what happened in the past was much more organic. And I think Baldur's Gate 2 is the prime example. For some characters, eventually some special thing can trigger over time. Like you have one or two character conversations, and if they go into the right direction, it can lead to a further development of a story in that direction. Or you have to have the right character in your party, and when you come across another character in the world, or take into your party, or just get to some specific place, or get a specific item, then that combination leads to a quest line happening, which isn't a quest line. It's not told to you as a quest line. It's just here's story.
I remember the romances.
It's organic.
That just happen, and all the women fight because they both because you've been kind to both, and there's huge conflict. You got to make a choice who you're going to choose, or none at all. I'm like, yeah, that's conflict. You need that just spontaneous after a rest. They come up and say, well, what's going on? Who do you really care about? And that's normal. That would happen in any group of men and women working together, fighting and killing on behalf of a goal. It's normal. And I don't know what happens in this game, but everyone seems to be promiscuous, or at least into everything, which is bizarre. At least in Dragon Age 2, as we say, it's very fluid with all the sexuality. There's some characters who are just straight up, no, they don't want to have that lifestyle. You can't even romance one of them. Or several of them, actually. So that's good. You need to have these established characters who are different.
Yeah. Well, the thing with these activists is that while they at the moment pretend that they want everyone to look different, in the end they want everything and everyone to be identical. They don't want equality, they want everything to be identical and thereby being equal. So that is what equality of outcome really means. They want everything to be the same and identical, no matter of what was before. That's why everybody has to be into everything and everyone. That's part of that.
That's part of that.
You don't get the whole package thrown at once, because that really doesn't work. But they try to shove as much as possible, as much as they can.
That was a resolution we saw with Tosh and Emmerich, where this stupid logic of, well, you don't like dragons, but did you ever ask her why she likes dragons? You're like, why? Why would he ever ask? Who would care? Like, you have a hobby I give no shits about, but you want me to have a conversation with it? Like, why?
You stay in your hobby, I stay in mine. What's the problem?
Yeah, that's great. Everyone's happy. Like, why would you bother doing a thing? You're like, it's just so stupid. That's how you resolve a problem. Anyway, let's just keep going.
Don't stop the gods while other worries weigh us down.
I'm pleased my words provided clarity on how we all felt.
Like, come on, for real, what is this? We already know we are playing a BioWare game. We don't need to be told to do companion quests. Like, how did this make it into the script? I really wish I could tell you that the main plot delivered where all
It's how you know that this game was made by tourists.
I don't know.
And
it's just bad. It's just a bad setup.
Yeah, but this is why I say, try to imagine if the Christian moms of the 80s and 90s had won and had gone into the industry just like these activists
That's funny.
did.
They always bitch about demonic and fantasy and video games and all this stuff, and then they're actually in that media. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and they would, if they had been in, and then if they would allow characters like Tash, they would not make it about being non-binary, but about finding Jesus.
Oh yeah. The issue would be
and everything would still be the same way of censored and made kiddie friendly, to the point where you can't use certain words and you can't offend anyone. It would be almost exactly the same, just that they wouldn't be promiscuous about everything. That's the details would be different, but the censorship would be the same. And the weird character twisting and not understanding the characters, not understanding the fantasy world, not understanding how a game works, if a role-playing game, how you even write these stories, because the mentally, psychologically, the Christian moms were of the same type that these activists are now. And the next generation will also have these types of people, and they will have another set of politics. But they will act the exact same way. And I don't want any of them. Oh god.
Absolutely.
How do you contain them?
This game used to be called Dragon Age Dreadwolf, and it was called that because the antagonist was Solus, an elven god who you fought alongside during Dragon Age Inquisition. And what a brilliant idea for an antagonist, someone who you know intimately if you'd played the previous game. Solus as a character is also fantastic. He is deep and complex and nuanced, and as a villain, he is a rich well from which a writer could draw. Now, Solus is an antagonist in this game, absolutely, but he plays a distant second fiddle to two other antagonists, a pair of totally generic, one-dimensional, unknowable, and uninteresting elven gods. They are just straight-up mustache-twirling evil. There is nothing to them at all, and the main storyline is just about like chasing leads to find them and, stopping them from crafting some MacGuffin, honestly. Now, Solus still does have a part in this game, which I won't spoil, and interactions with him are a high point, but he plays a far less central role than he could have played, and it's such a wasted opportunity to see him sidelined in favor of two villains who could not be less interesting or more generic. Tonally, Dragon Age the Veilguard is silly and childish. It lacks any real tension, dialogue feels inauthentic, more complex themes and character motivations are clumsily surfaced, the stories it wishes to...
Okay, so that's a big thing. If motivations aren't taught properly to the audience or explained properly, or at least clearly, they could be multiple motivations, could be layers of plot, that's great. But if it's all just like, oh yeah, I like killing dragons, that's why I'm coming with you. It's like, really? That's it? And maybe that's all Tosh is. Maybe that's her character. Like we have characters like Oghren, but he's got some depth to him. He's got reasons why he's there. He's got family problems. Tosh is whatever issues. And it's like, does that have anything to do with the world? And if it does, great. We could have these great discussions about the Qun and learn more about the Qun and how the Tal Vashoth work, and maybe that's a thing. I don't know. But they keep changing the lore on us, so it's like, does it matter anymore? It's whatever the writers want this time, and the writers have changed so many times in this series, or at least rather this game, that we don't know what matters to be consistent.
And they fail to acknowledge, and I do not know why they insist so much on that, to work with established lore, because people like consistency. And these people hate consistency. And they do not understand that anytime they destroy consistency is when people want to eat their stuff less.
All right.
I have trouble putting this into words, but I hope you know what I mean.
I don't mind a game reinvigorating itself and changing a few things and maybe tweaking a bit of the lore here and there. And like we learn about, hey, maybe there are some female mages that are a part of the Qun, or maybe there are some magic wielders that are dwarven. Like maybe there's a certain noble family that can do that.
I guess the lore is in the way of the story they want to tell, and that's why they feel they must change the lore.
Yeah, but there's ways
because
to do that.
it's for them. It's not about the world. It's not about the characters. It's about the story they want to tell.
Yeah.
And what happens when they make a woke game of their own, or a woke movie of their own that is not parasitizing on some previously established popular IP? They make Concord or Dustborn.
Well,
and nobody buys it.
Think of it this way. When they designed Alistair, they gave him a very specific haircut, and you can use that cosmetically for your character. You can have the same haircut as Alistair. In that capacity, if you can give yourself certain attributes in the character creator, it's probably because they've already have those attributes in another character that they wanted to design a very specific way. And that very specific way could be a tattoo that's, again, very specific to the elven tribes or the dwarves. They have all this lore with just the tattoos on each species or each race. There's a lot of lore behind that. And if you just cosmetically put that on yourself, you are then saying in your origin story of Origins and Dragon Age Origins, you are then of that denomination. And that means a lot. Even though there's like, oh, you are an elf in some conversations, it's not a big deal. But at least that is a thing that is attributed to character creation. When you look at all these cosmetic differences you can do in the game, hair, length, whatever, they mean nothing. They have nothing to do with anything. And this is what is so silly with some of these games. Because I seem to remember games where if you put on certain clothing, they will see you as, oh, you're a member of that group. We're going to attack you, or we're going to be your friend because of that. And to me, that's great. That's really good role playing, because it's just
that's interesting.
Yeah, you walk into a room and you're wearing the villains or the enemy's clothing. They're going to come attack. Obviously, everyone in the room is going to jump you. So that's cool. I want that. I want that conscientiousness of the game world to attribute the player's actions, even in cosmetic things. And they don't. I bet you any money they don't give a shit what you look like, what hair you've got, whether you have top scars or not. There's nothing there.
In good RPGs, the developers always try to build a world, something consistent that works on its own, where everything flows together, that seems alive. This is a set piece, a long tunnel that you run through. with a stupid puzzle in the middle and constantly nonsensical NPC blabber. And I have a feeling that this game probably babbles as much as God of War Ragnarok. Because they couldn't even take that critique too hard and not do it, I bet. So I don't know, because I haven't played it, I haven't watched a playthrough of it, but I have very, very strong fears that that's what this does.
All right. We're at 23 and a half. Let's keep going.
The game's outdated structure and the overt references to the game's structure in the writing sound ridiculous. The main storyline is a huge disappointment owing to a lack of interesting missions and worthwhile antagonists.
Oh.
It's just a top-to-bottom disappointment. BioWare games live and die by their writing,
It's a
and
doggo.
Dragon Age the Veilguard absolutely dies by it. And we have not yet even covered how little actual choice this game affords you, and that is equally disappointing.
Careful of him. I want to talk to him.
You and me, Rook. We chase trouble.
I'm here because you didn't listen.
Whatever's out there, we'll face it together, I promise. Together.
The promise of a BioWare game has always been a story that you can tangibly shape. BioWare
You know what pisses me off? A UI blip that tells you began a romance with character X.
Yeah.
Why do I need a pop-up for that? Why can't I derive that from context?
Why can't you read the option and just choose the one you want as opposed to having the game tell you what's going? Yeah, that's basically a cheat. Like you're just like, oh, this is the function that will be performed, and you're going to get a +1 to likeness or whatever, or romance, +1 to romance for this. Like that's
playing stats. That's not playing story.
It's silly. It's just childish crap. Like, why are we doing this? Why even play it? Why even play the game? The game, to me, BioWare games are at least 50% are dialogue.
You know what? Harvest Moon on the Super Nintendo, the first one, did it better.
Oh, really? The first one. I remember the first one.
Yeah, because there were, I think, 7 girls in the village that you could romance and marry, and each one, they wouldn't tell you whether they liked something or not that you gave them as a gift or when you talked with them, but you could check some sort of diary that everyone had, and then check how many hearts it had in it. But you had to go there and check, is it more, is it less?
Sometimes it was color-based and it made things a bit simpler, but yeah, you have
I think that was later on.
Yeah.
I only played the very first Harvest Moon, so I can only go off of that. And that was interesting, because it's also to check your love stat with the girl. You had to sneak in to get, well, not actually sneak in, but you had to take a peek at her diary, which was a funny little thing, but it wouldn't tell you directly.
It was,
and you had to figure out. Okay, I just gave her this. Is it more, or is it less? Does she hate it? And that was neat. That was neat. But here the UI is telling you, oh, you're romancing the girl now.
Yeah, it's your typical RPG fashion. You go into any building, you just take whatever you want.
I mean, is this how the activists look at romance as, oh, I scored points with the other person in the room, now we can have snoo-snoo. A snoo-snoo achieved. Are they just thinking in stats?
Yeah, it's a lot different. I always go back to KOTOR and how, because they didn't really have romances in KOTOR, but it was never about that anyway. So when you have options to talk to because you had like, I don't know, like 10 or 11, and KOTOR 2 was like so many characters, and it wasn't about romance, it was about learning about them, and you could guide them in the path of light and dark. And that was, if you didn't even have to do that. Like, it was just an option that why, and you learned through the plot why they were following you and what was the whole purpose, this whole metaphysical reason behind your existence. It's like, wow, this is really well thought out, and connecting to what is the Force and why do we use it and how does it work. That was really great. So the questions that the creators of the game were asking were part of this dialogue with the characters, and it had nothing to do with romance. They could see it as romance. They loved you, I guess, in a certain sense. But the story never allowed for that to be a part of the story because it wasn't about that. And they could have easily done that. But the creators are like, no, we don't care. So I like that. I like how they have romance in games that aren't really romance, or at least would, BioWare, they want to have freaking steamy sessions of depictions of people getting it on. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's not the point of these games. It's like a bonus. It's like a thing on the top. It's like a cherry. Like, you don't really need it. Everyone's gonna hug Tally. In every Mass Effect 2 playthrough, you're gonna hug Tally. Doesn't matter. So
the thing with these activists is that they are obsessed, not necessarily with relationships, but with the outcome of it, with the snoo. And that's why you have all this other stuff before it. That is their main focus. These are, as I've said before, fetish writers. They don't write to have a story, they write to have their lustful desire fulfilled. And that is what drives everything. That is why the main plot is not so important.
Yeah, it's either sex or food or personal issues. Like they
which are just a vehicle to get to sex.
I don't know. It's weird. They gotta talk. They gotta have some sort of therapy. So, like, why are you feeling that way? It's like, I'm angry. Why do you
think they went to therapy? The thing is the way they talk. If you've ever met these people in person, the way they talk is as if you are in therapy, but a twisted, dark version of it that actually has the opposite effect.
Yeah. You know, that reminds me, I just posted in the politics section, there was an interview by Peterson and one of the liberal MPs who left the party like 2 years ago or whatever, and she revealed the conversation. Like, this was a conversation that's actually public knowledge, but no one bothered to check because it's with the PM's office. And she described how crazy Trudeau is, and no one knew about this. And how much...
I knew from people who knew him when he was younger and at parties and did his stair falling trick. I knew some of them. And then they told me this guy's nuts. He doesn't have anything between his ears and is completely out the wazoo.
The narcissism that he's
just a puppet.
Yeah, it is terrifying. It's like a 20-30 minute video with Jordan, but because it's so telling, you're like, we already knew this, but just to hear it, like, she flipped out on this guy because he was so crazy. Anyway, I don't want to take that out of the conversation here, but just to hear that we have evidence of him being a narcissist, and
well, that's not difficult.
Yeah, I know.
You just have more evidence.
Yeah, I know.
This is all we really get. We get more evidence to what we already knew.
Yeah, apparently today or tomorrow we're going to find out whether the Bloc Québécois, the Separatist Party of Canada, will be holding a non-confidence vote, because they have the second highest majority next to the opposition party, and if they do, then they could overpower the Liberals and call an election. So that's what could happen today or tomorrow. We don't know yet. We'll find out. But the Bloc is crazy, but who cares? Anyway, Canadian politics, boring. Who cares? Let's keep going.
Has had success with this goal over the years, but it's remained a guiding star for them and for all the games in this genre that sought to copy the template that BioWare initially laid down with this cinematic-style, narrative-led RPG. Dragon Age: The Veilguard marks a low...
This was another one of these things. Yeah. You have the conversation, you click on the thing, they talk, and you have the pop-up of, the character approves. Can't I tell from how he's reacting? Do I need the UI to tell me that, to explain that to me? Are these people so emotionally daft? I know I bring up that narcissism is emotional immaturity, but this is beyond.
This is
like not even autists are that daft.
This was a problem in Inquisition, and I think in Dragon Age 2 as well. Whenever they're not even in the room. And if you make a choice and they'll be like, oh, this person approves, this person disapproves. Like, how could they possibly know what just happened when they're not even in the room? So stuff like that is really annoying to me. And with Origins, it was just you throw gifts at people And it may not be the +10, but it's, you're still throwing gifts until they like you.
It is at least less disconnected.
Yeah, if I come over to your house every day and give you stuff, it's like, okay, this guy obviously likes me, whatever. It's like, fine.
Or if it at least, I mean, they can do the increases, but not tell you, and then it looks like, oh, this character really likes me. Because you can have this the idea is, if you're not putting it on screen all the time, that people have a natural disposition to one another where they sense this guy, we're on the same wavelength. And that would be the outcome of that. But when you put the numbers on the screen, that's shit. It was shit then, it is shit now.
Yeah.
It's not something you should keep and make prettier.
Okay.
Pursuit of this goal, so much so that I really wonder if this is what they were intending all along, or if maybe like they had other ambitions but they ran out of time and they just couldn't make them happen. I just refuse to believe that what we got here in Veilguard could have been BioWare's actual intention from the start. Fundamentally, the promise of choice exists at both the macro and micro level. In the past, BioWare games have not only let you select your hairstyle, but also, through dialogue options, shape your personality. Are you a nice guy, a jester, an asshole, or does your mood change depending on who you're speaking to? Do you make cold, calculated calls that prioritize the mission, or are you more empathetic, putting the needs of your team first? How people and the world at large react to those decisions shapes your journey. Maybe a member of the team really hates your guts and has no time for your bullshit. Maybe another loves you so much that they swoon when you so much as glance their way. Maybe a certain faction declares you a blood enemy for making a decision that disadvantages them, while another will have your back no matter what because you were there for them when it counted. Almost everything that I've described here is either absent in Veilguard, or it's so surface level that the decisions feel entirely cosmetic. The biggest gap for me personally is the inability to truly shape a rook, a main character, that reflects who I want to be. I always choose the bad guy personality type in BioWare games because, generally speaking, renegades have more fun.
Say goodnight, Manuel.
The darkness is coming. The end is near. You can't...
There is no bad guy option here in Veilguard. There's only nice guy...
That's your Christian writing.
Well, this is a thing that even Dragon Age 2 got right, because they had the 3 colors of Hawke, and as we say many, many times, if there's anything good about Dragon Age 2, it is the game tracks your choices, and that there's a certain part of Act 2 and 3 where Hawke will act with the majority of choices you made in one of those 3 colors in standard dialogue, which means that you have established a personality. Which, as simple as it is, it works. It makes sense. They could not even do that for this game. If there even was a score of blue, purple, and red, I don't even know. So this is the same problem with Andromeda. Andromeda was just whatever. Here's a vibe. Here's a feeling, and you could answer the question with a certain stance. And it's not like the stance of like Alpha Protocol stance where they had the 3 styles of spy. This is just angry, perplexed, or logical, or whatever the options were in Andromeda. I barely remember that game, because why would I? So yeah, you have to do something with the dialogue wheel. You have to do something with the character, the main character, and you have to have him grow. Challenge him or her. Make them do something that changes them. And BioWare doesn't like doing that. They just can't. They've never... They could have easily have done that if they want to go the Dragon Age 2 route, if they want to go the Alpha Protocol route, which is really a lot of work, but at least it's something. At least they're trying to do something. But all they're doing is rehashing everything. Like, I haven't seen anything innovative, and if anything, it's gone backwards. I don't see the development of Dragon Age 2. The friend rivalry system is just they're not going to heal you anymore in spells if there's a spellcaster. You're like, what? That's it? That's okay. Great. I'll manually tell you to heal me. Like, what's the point? It's silly.
I think that's happened with so many games, that either they've switched out their core mechanics for something weird new, which you can at least argue, that's experimental, like Bayonetta 3. But the mechanic they switched out for that was that you can mix and match your hand and your foot weapons, which is what made that game.
Cool.
And the new thing is just not working. And other things, they go backwards, as you say.
Yeah, it's
God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. That was not what the God of War gameplay was.
Yeah,
it was just something completely different, boring.
It's different when you're trying to make sense of like what came before, like with Mass Effect 1, and they have to streamline because they have too many guns, they're all the same, they have too many powers, they're all kind of don't do much. So they streamlined the level up system, they streamlined the gun system, they made them more specific. This manufacturer makes a certain kind of gun a certain way, blah blah blah. It's like, great, that is fine. I don't like that because it takes away from the original lore, but it makes it more easily consumable by other players, by newer players, and ultimately it does make a tighter script or a tighter world, and I'm okay with that, even though I prefer omni-gelling everything and like using it to hack open doors. Like that was great. I thought that was a really unique part of the lore of a futuristic world where you can just take all this stuff, all these useful tools that you're not using, melt them down into nano paste essentially, and then reprogram that paste to turn into like a magical lock that could open any door. Like that's cool. I thought that was like sci-fi wise, that's pretty cool. But then they said that's kind of a big problem. And I'm like, fine, take away the fun thing. And I totally understand that. But that's streamlining. That's making things simpler, and I'm okay with that. With Dragon Age, they haven't done that. They haven't done anything.
I would say we have identified that they make the writing for themselves because they can't do anything else. They're not capable of it. And with the gameplay, that is the same thing. These are people who are not gamers, who are not interested in games, thus they don't want complex games. They want simple, easy games. They want the DSP level of games.
Oh, wow.
Because they think that's what everybody can digest. And also, when the game is easy and simple, that means everybody can get through it, so they can see all the entirety of the woke story and all this other bullshit, the preachery.
The direct, or the people like Skill Up and other, I don't know if he's going to talk about the difficulty level, but they said that there's an easy mode for the game where everyone just dies or whatever, like there's barely any combat. It's like so simple.
Story mode.
The story mode difficulty. Like, I don't know if he's going to talk about that, but that's, if you have that option in your game, there's something wrong. You've done something very wrong.
I understand that option in these big games since Mass Effect. If you have played through, that you unlock it for subsequent playthroughs. That I think is okay.
Interesting. See, I would think the opposite of you want a
because these are so big.
You want like an insanity or beyond insanity.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. But I'd say in this case, I'd give both. You give the higher difficulty for the gameplay, and you give the story mode for, hey, I want to see them. Maybe give that after you play through hard mode. You played through your second time in a different way, different story, and after that, okay, we have a bazillion ways to play through the story. Here's your story mode, so that you, if you want, so that you don't get bored by the repetitive gameplay.
That would be such a detailed story, like choices and nuances that you'd want to focus just to see everything. It would take a long time. So you say, make the fighting really easy. I can understand
as a reward for beating hard mode.
But if it's a game like this, there's nothing. There's no choices. There's no nuance. There's no branching paths that will affect anything. And in that case, you're going to unlock everything because everything's so simple now. As opposed to,
it's just everything progresses on a line, not even an ellipses like the Mass Effect series. It's just a line, and the conversation points, they just give you different text in the conversation part, but it's irrelevant for the entire game.
Yeah, I want multiple branching paths like you would see in what was that crazy detective futuristic world where there's all those robots and they're all like it was a robot detective character. Oh, what's the name?
Become Toaster?
There you go. Like that's the level of branching you'd want to have an easy mode so you can see everything very quickly as opposed to having just unlocking a hard mode. I don't know. It's to me, it sounds like a sort of a laugh, like a slap in the face to gamers. Oh, here's an easy mode you've unlocked. It's like, why would I want an easy mode? Because the game is so
easy
big.
mode. Easy mode was initially introduced in the early 90s specifically for game journalists, so that they can play through games quick enough to write a review. And not because games journalists were bad, but so that they could get through the game in time.
Yeah, I always compare that to the Pathfinder games because they're the difficulty is so customizable, and once you get past hard,
and
it's you really learn what you should not be, because there's dozens of subclasses, and you have to know exactly what you're doing to maximize everything.
Yeah, and there's two. So for reviewing, there's two aspects. One is the gameplay, the other is the story. To review the gameplay, you of course can't play in easy mode. Maybe you can't even play in normal, although that's what most people will just run with. Because today, the normal game is usually on hard mode. The difficulties have shifted. Everything's one thing up. Normal is easy. Easy is very easy. Hard is normal. But for review, if game reviewers are on a time scale, if you review the story, well, easy does help. But you have to do both. And then the question is also, can you switch it down after a time, and not have to restart the whole thing from scratch?
Yeah.
So that's all things to take into account. But the way that they ship easy mode now is all for this. Oh, it's for the disabled people. Disabled people don't need an easy mode. We have more than enough evidence of that. Children don't need an easy mode. We have more than enough evidence of that. They never did.
And nice guy who's like ever so slightly more stern. That's literally it. Those are your only three options. Sometimes there's an additional option that's meant to be like the angry option. But what the game does, and this drove me fucking nuts, is it takes the edge off the dialogue option you've selected to make it something more friendly.
What?
Like this clip when some asshole bureaucrat barges into the conversation making demands, and I want to say, who is this fool? Because that would be an antagonistic thing to say that might result in some conflict. Instead, here's what Rook actually ends up saying.
Who is this?
What?
This is Governor Evenchi. They have concerns.
Great.
Or this example, when I'm trying to get the head of the Grey Wardens to listen to me, and I just reach my wit's end.
Are you kidding me?
I assure you, I am deadly serious.
That is not...
Thank you. That has always been my problem with the dialogue wheel. It's just so that it's even more obvious. That you don't get what you're actually clicking. But it's not the wrong emotion, which has often happened, but it's that everything's just censored down.
Yeah, this is no different than Mass Effect 1. They did the same thing.
Yeah, and we, with some people from the server, we just watched The Princess Bride today. Wonderful movie from the 80s. And that's a comedy for children. And it is still more serious and more dark fantasy than this movie. It is also more brutal, a movie game.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, it is more serious, because it takes itself serious. And it is more brutal dark fantasy than all the stuff the wokeists make. For children, it's stunning when you see the contrast. This is garbage this year.
Yeah, right with the lighting, you could tell this face is very plastic. It's just very like fixed.
The game looks like Arcane, like League of Legends.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
And I knew this would be what it is the moment I saw the first title screen that they teased with the purple background and the font that they had used.
Minus the actual facial animations of Arcane. Those actually have facial animations. These are just...
Yes, that is actually taken care, but from the whole... The way it comes across, it looks like a comic.
Yeah, everything here, their faces are like, there's barely any emotion in the eyes and the cheekbones. Like, it's just very fixed. And the only thing you get is a little bit of the chin, a little bit of the lips.
It's not psychopath expressions.
Like there's it's just this no emotion in the upper part of the face. It's weird.
I'm an idiot, but I can't do that because Rook is anything that might offend or upset anyone.
That's like the fourth time I've seen his hands on his hips. Like in every scenario, he's got his hands on his hips. How's it going? Well, let me put my hands on my hips and tell you.
That's how the. I think this is a lot modeled. They're both doing it by here.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a lot how these activist types like to stand when they want to be imposing. They have very few modes of behavior. I'm going from personal experience, and I see all of this reflected into this game.
It's like
this is not a game made. They probably had all the competent people had to do all the hard work, doing the textures, doing the models and everything, but the people in charge of writing and story and everything that that makes a role-playing game were all the horrible, incompetent people. And that's why you can have the best talent in every other department, and the writing falls, everything falls. And this is the moment where I disagree with Shigeru Miyamoto's ancient wisdom of gameplay is everything. No, gameplay is 98%.
Well,
the 2% can ruin your game, and in a role-playing game,
yeah.
it's not 98%.
In a BioWare
role-playing game, the story is it.
In a BioWare game, at least the gameplay is the dialogue wheel. At least, so
the gameplay is the story.
Essentially, it's the dialogue itself. Yeah, that's part of the story for sure. So
I don't want to say the dialogue wheel because I was much more fine with the old games where you had the entire text laid out what your character would say.
Yeah, that was Origins because they just borrowed the same layout from KOTOR and Baldur's Gate because they were making a Baldur's Gate version for their own, which is great. And for whatever reason, Dragon Age 2 came out and they went, well, we're going to switch it up with Mass Effect. You're like, okay, why not?
I mean, Dragon Age was still made in an update of the Neverwinter Nights engine.
Oh yeah,
so that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
I should just bring that back.
Just use an engine that looks good and does all the things you want it to do, and just do another isometric RPG. You could use full camera support. I don't care. Make it full 3D. I don't care. And just go back to making good games. I don't know. Seems simple.
Yeah, it's right. Chad is right. It's RPGs are choose your own adventure, and that's not what this is.
They can be, yeah.
This is very much the case with his team too. With the exception of one pivotal decision point, Rook cannot upset his team members in any meaningful way. In so many BioWare games and games like it, you could say some mean shit that would really piss off your companions, but here all you can do is offer support. Sometimes in a friendly way, other times in a slightly more stern way, but never can you say anything that might actually upset them. But that's not to say that you can't say things that your teammates won't mildly disapprove of, and you will on occasion see like Nev.
Look at that. There's just again another conversation. They both have their hands on their hips. It's hilarious.
The hands on the hips are the frown that DreamWorks does. It's the equivalent to the DreamWorks frown.
I have a problem. I'm going to put my hands on my hips. You have a problem. I'm also going to put my hands on my hips. It's like, okay. Do you have any other pose? Can you,
it looks gay.
Can you put your hand on your chin or behind your back? Like what are you doing? Or just
why are you gay?
Or just put your hands next to your thighs and just let them hang. What's wrong with that? Why are you always concerned?
Disapproves pop up on the left, but there's no way to do that so severely or so often that you would start to develop a negative relationship with your companion. There is a really interesting companion system kind of working away in the back end called Hardened, where a companion apparently disapproves of you so much that their offensive damage abilities are made stronger, but they won't cast any supporting abilities, and your relationship progress with them is also slowed. I could only achieve this state with one companion, Nev, after making that pivotal decision I mentioned earlier. Outside of that, I almost always always chose the gruffest dialogue option available to me, and I was never able to trigger this hardened state with any other companion. Oh, and by the way, I never felt the impact of Nev's new damage potential during combat, and I had absolutely no trouble romancing Nev even after she was hardened, so I think the system isn't quite as impactful as it promises to be. The same way that the game is unwilling to confront any darker themes, the same way the game is unwilling to create any genuine conflict between party members, it's also unwilling to create genuine tension between you and your party members. So
okay, so this is horrible. If you can't actually choose negative choices, then what's the point? It's
not just the illusion of choice, it's the illusion of any sort of control.
There's no role playing. You're just answering the question or deciding a choice, and everyone's like yes. Or
as I said, it's just fluff choice. There is nothing here. It's a straight line.
Yeah.
This game is a straight line. Hello, Hawke.
Hawke?
Bitches.
Hey, Hawke, how you doing?
Okay. My youngest is very ill, so that's why I'm a bit late.
Okay.
Well, I hope she gets well soon.
So do I. I like to sleep at some point.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well,
what have I missed so far?
We've learned that choices don't matter, and there are no choices. You can't upset anyone. You can never say anything negative. There's only one character that gets the hardened state, and that's Nev, and she no longer heals you. And the guy who
remember how in most you could talk yourself out of trouble if you said the right things, made the right threats, if you put the work in to ingratiate yourself to a fact.
You just opened the browser.
Okay. Well,
and everybody has their hands on the hips.
Yeah, everyone, like there's actual scenes where two characters in different sides of the conversation both have the same pose. They both have the hands on we saw it twice already. I've seen it now 5 times with the main character.
Earlier.
Yeah.
In the last stream, but that's like the only pose he does.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like every conversation, hands on my hips, I'm serious, I'm going to talk to you, sir. Like, why? Just don't have that. Just don't do the pose.
But still friendly.
Yeah, he never gets angry. He never tells people off. He can't punch someone. He can't interrupt, like in a ME2 interrupt. Like nothing.
You should not have negative thoughts, or you might start a counter-revolution.
It's funny. It's this.
I don't know.
It's so neutered. I could barely. If another studio made something like this and called it some other game, I couldn't tell a difference. Like it would just be some other game with bad facial rigging.
Yeah, I said earlier that had the Christian moms taken over back in the day and infiltrated the video game industry, they would make it like this, just with the details being different. That instead of non-binary, it's finding Jesus. But it would be neutered all the same.
And everyone has no or barely any emotion above their nose. Like all the facial muscles are very stoic and very stiff, and you can't tell if they're angry or sad or what. I don't know.
Man, I wish I had a rope right now.
Had you posted the NDA, Hawke?
Yeah, it was me. I posted it in the
that's a
Discord,
brilliant document with oddly specific dementies.
I'll have to read that and make it. Honestly, after seeing that video, whoever posted that, I have to make a video on it because it was so.
You can't just bring it up on screen.
No. That
was me again. I've been delving into all this Veilguard stuff.
Yeah, and Hawke, I fully accept your non-verbalized apology about it being impossible to talk about communism.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
There it is.
Sure.
I try not to, but the videos just it's all the video essays. It's all video essayists do. That's the problem. There are no video essayists who don't do it. And now they're going. I predict they're going to go into damage control mode as this whole thing is collapsing. And they will keep talking about it, but make apologia for it in the other way, like. In the way when it began, they said, "Oh, why do you have a problem with it?" Then they were in the phase of, "Oh, you have to like it; it's here to stay." And now, when it's in decline, they will again say, "Oh, why do you have a problem with it?"
All right. Well, let's figure this out later. We got a little bit more video to go through. We do have a super chat from Threadnut, so thank you, sir. Here we go. It's Skyrim's "Hey Moron, follow the arrow, moron" style of quests spread out as gameplay. of the entire game, including the Mass Effect dialogue. I think even Dragon Age 2 had the arrow indicator thing with quest markers, that sort of thing. So nothing special.
My question would be, does it have actual levels, or is it just long tunnels that pretend to be world?
What he described was there were sections that were closed off, so you're doing lots of backtracking. So there's the same levels, you just go to a different location.
Do you remember when they were complaining about Dragon Age 2 for using the same levels and everything?
Right.
But now that Veilguard's doing it, because it looks a little bit prettier, that's perfectly fine.
They're bringing back all the not best from everything.
Everything. Let's just copy everything, whatever we did in the past. Oh, no.
But not the best, all the not best.
You can have the set levels and everything, because Mass Effect 2 and 3 did it, where there's just each mission is its own level. But to go backtracking through stuff, that just, like I say, Dragon Age 2 did that. And everyone just complained constantly about it. And now, like I say, Veilguard's doing it, and people are thinking, this is a game made with love. It's like, no. From what I've seen, and especially that Isabella scene that I shared with everyone, which does those push-ups, it's so clear that this is just a lecture to people, and gameplay and fun is not the main goal.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do a video on that just because it was so strange to see that, and it was like a 3-minute clip or whatever, and it's like, wow, they destroyed her character. They destroyed whatever storytelling they're trying to achieve with that scene of teaching the audience about how to speak, which was very offensive to me. If you're gonna change a character like that and just twist, whatever she was wearing, I was like, is that Isabella? Really? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, the irony about that is people complained that she was dressed too slutty in Dragon Age 2, and then they've made that, and I'm like, oh, okay.
They only know extremes.
Yeah.
She looked like a Amazonian or some sort of tribal dress, and then gave her a goofy hat, and you're like, that's a pirate? How would you...
Yeah.
Pirates wouldn't wear that. They'd wear rough clothing and loose-fitting stuff so they could wrap it around their bodies in case something happened. They wouldn't...
I said, this doesn't even look like high fantasy. This looks like beyond that. This is silly high fantasy of He-Man level.
I don't even know.
Dark fantasy is gritty and bitty realistic and has its own style to it culturally that you develop as the designer. But the armor I see in this game, it just looks goofy. The clothes in general, it's just a goofy fashion show. And we saw the same thing when the vampire role-playing game was wokeified. And they probably had the same in mind for the Vampire Bloodlines 2.
Oh god, they released merch today on the Bloodlines 2, and everyone's like, the game isn't out yet. Why would I want merch of this thing that doesn't exist? It's all they've been doing for the past year is releasing blog posts, and you're like, I don't care. Like I really don't care about your external results of what you did that week. If your marketing department can't make a video or do something that is going to be attractive, don't say anything. Just keep it tight until you have lots to share, and then you make a video, you do an interview for 2 minutes, and that's it. You don't release merch of a game that has had development hell, is probably still in development hell, and is never going to see the light of day until we actually...
It says a lot if your merch is ready before your game.
Release the game, then fix it if there's patches that need done, and then say, hey, people like it. Maybe we'll ask them, would you like a t-shirt? Would you like a hat? What would you like it to say? And then you float that around, and then you make a list, and we got 100 people. We can afford to sell a t-shirt to 100 people. No problem. Let's make a merch store. Mm-hmm. That's how you do it.
Coming off of that, Yokai 1235 makes a good point of dark fantasy is realistic mixed with edgy and sexy stuff, which is the complete opposite of these people's aesthetics. Considering the fact that people argued that Dragon Age Origin wasn't a dark fantasy.
Really?
Oh yeah, until I posted a picture of my Dragon Age Origin Xbox case, which says The Dark Fantasy from BioWare. And it's like, oh, we didn't expect you to have that. It's like, yeah, I bought this game 15 years ago. I still have the case. That's what happens.
Hawke, have you seen The Princess Bride?
Yeah. Of course I have. Not an uncultured swine.
Would you consider it having dark fantasy elements?
Well, it does have rats of unusual size. So
yeah, very gritty fire swamp, and the dark dungeon machine that drains the life of you.
Yeah, it is.
That is more dark fantasy than Veilguard.
Also, when what was his name in was it Montana? He actually kills the six-fingered man. He does it quite slowly, and you also see the blade go into him, or the knife, and everything, and the blood coming from his arms and everything.
Yeah.
I doubt that Veilguard would do something like that.
Oh yeah, and that was a kids' movie. And that was fine to do. The thing is that back in the day, back before we had the purple-green quirky stuff, dark fantasy was something where you would find this generation that is making this stuff now, and the previous one that was into this stuff, like the I call them pseudo-goths, that were just there for the sex and the dark edgy stuff, but not actually anything of substance. And you would find them in these settings. But when you give them actual reign over making something, they make the green, purple, quirky stuff. It's very strange, very weird.
All right, we are at 29 minutes almost, and we've got quite a bit more to go.
Party member by your side at a crucial moment, and speechcraft that would make it easier whether we're trying to persuade or intimidate or deceive. Veilguard has none of those things. You cannot talk your way in or out of any situation. There are no stat checks that will test your powers of persuasion or whatever. Every outcome is ultimately determined by force because there is no scope for you to determine it by any other means. This was really typified in this mission, which seemed like it was going to be a real standout. This is towards the back end of the game, and we have to infiltrate a meeting of cultists.
Everyone's the same height. It's just like, what the hell? Please rewind.
No, Smut, they're not all the same height. They are equal.
All right.
Determine it by any other means.
Notice, hold on. Is they're all the same height until they need to not be the same height.
Okay.
Like, remember we were talking about Emmerich being so much taller than everybody else? And then in other scenes, he's like the same height.
Let's see.
Look, they're not actually the same height. They're just all standing in a different depth of the shot, which ends up having them all have the same height.
Yeah, look at that. Like every single head, every eye level is exactly the same.
Yeah, in other scenes with whatever Asian elf woman is in, she's shorter than people.
Yeah, and what's her face has a peg leg. Like she's stuck in a certain stance. Like she can't. And she's got her freaking pose in the. Oh, both these two people have their hands on their hips.
They're basically T-posing.
Every single scene.
There's only two poses in this scene. It's hands on hips or hands down by the side in the exact same spot.
Yeah. In the stiff manner. But yeah, this is equity.
It's so
just
funny.
that they're not standing on boxes.
Oh boy.
Mission, which seemed like it was going to be a real standout. This is towards the back end of the game, and we have to infiltrate a meeting of cultists, and we're supposed to be undercover. To this point, there had never ever been any mission like this. As I said earlier, every mission is just following someone, going to a place, killing enemies, and so the promise of like a stealthy undercover mission was really exciting because I was desperate for just something else. So how does this actually play out? Well, firstly, we're undercover, but we leave our faces uncovered while we walk around this encampment, and we're basically the only people not wearing a hood, and we've been fighting this faction for the last 30 hours, so you'd expect they know our faces by now, but anyway. Eventually we come to a dude and he's blocking the way, and I expect this might be a moment where I have to smooth talk him, and if I say the wrong thing, maybe the jig is up and it's time to fight. But nope, here's what actually happens.
Stop. Who are you? I don't recognize any of you.
You don't recognize me?
I don't... Magister... Lady,
Appalling. They'll hire anyone these days.
So the best my dude can conjure in that moment is, and then Nev takes over and does all the talking for us. No chance for me to have any input into how this goes down, and when it ends...
I mean, they have hoods, they're just not putting them up. This is the same illness that demanded in the first Judge Dredd movie that the Stallone take off the helmet so that we can see Stallone.
Yeah, but look at...
This is the same thing, so that we always know these are the good guys.
Yeah, but how could you have infiltrate an organization that have hoods and masks and you're not wearing a hood or a mask? Like, it's the uniform. Just steal a uniform and put it on your freaking head.
This is like infiltrating the KKK in blackface.
Like, this is so stupid.
This is Dave Chappelle infiltrating the KKK with the hood down.
You know this scene, it reminds me of one from Dragon Age 2 when you're searching for Fenrir and you've got to get into a warehouse and Hawke can lie and say, can't you see the smoke and all the panicking? There's a fire. Get out of here, like that, and plays like a proper trick on people to get past. And it's like, oh yeah, that can trick people. This, just saying they'll hire anybody, it's like, yeah, and those people aren't you because you don't have a hood. You're clearly not one of us, so who are you?
Yeah, and
you've not said your name.
Another great thing about that scene, I remember, if you bring Meryl with you, she screws it up and she says, "Are we?" Or she's like, she says something like, "What are you saying?" It's like, and Hawke turns around and goes, "No, Meryl, I'm joking."
Yeah, no, Meryl, I'm lying. Also,
it's so brilliant, and that's because you chose Meryl in your party, and she screws it up. I'm like, that's perfect. That's perfect on that scene.
And if you have Varric there, you can get Varric to do it because these characters mean something. Also, Visa Venatori. Number one, obviously they've changed their uniform since Inquisition. Number two, just because is she a Magister? I thought she was just a detective. Is she a Magister, this Nev? They should know who's part of it. They're a secret organisation that controls a lot of the Tevinter Imperium. I don't care. Bio didn't care.
There's two main reasons why your cult would wear masks all the time. One is, of course, that outsiders don't know who the cult members are when they go to their normal lives. And the other is that maybe you want that the cult members don't know who each other are so that they don't rat anyone out in case they get captured and tortured.
Yeah,
so that only the higher-ups know who everyone is.
Yeah, but that's why they're wearing masks. If you're not wearing a mask,
yeah,
they know you're not part of the group.
You're effectively, hey, that one's breaking the rules. What the fuck? Kill him.
Oh my god, there's these three people wandering in here that suspiciously look like the three people who've been fighting for hours and hours, well, days and months.
Yeah, but everyone who fought them is dead, right?
We never saw their faces. Yeah. well, now we have these three guys who we see faces we've never seen before in any of our groups before. Who are they? I don't know.
It just doesn't
right
work.
There, in the middle of these goons, talking openly about how we plan to murder the gods they worship.
It's Elganon, not Gillenane like we expected.
Okay.
Shame. We have unfinished business with her.
Next time I see her, she's dead.
The game opens with a sequence where you have a choice. Either you can talk your way through a...
The other thing is, you do not have such conversations in the open around all of these people. So the Shogun show, the remake, not the original. The original was great. The Woke remake. They're always doing all of these horrible mistakes where they basically admit their betrayal of the other lords, of the other characters, and there are guards standing around everywhere that hear everything. And somehow we're supposed to believe that this this completely incompetently written Game of Thrones is supposed to work. I always have trouble with such scenes. Why are these people writing them now when years before these were exactly the people who loved videos about, oh look, this doesn't make any sense, and now they write exactly this stuff. Horrible.
Or just resort to violence. Having played, that moment is very deceptive because it suggests that this is a game where moments like this are a regular occurrence, and they absolutely are not. I'm not exaggerating when I say that outside of the companion missions, where you can decide how those stories end, and outside of the game's 2-hour finale, where you do make some serious, impactful decisions, there were a total of 2 moments in this entire game where I felt like I was making a consequential decision that would actually affect the flow of events. 2. Now, I'm not sure if there were additional consequential decisions buried in some side content or something I didn't do, but I played this game for 50 hours, and for me, it was 2. And I know that sounds hyperbolic. You're thinking, that cannot possibly be right, but I promise you, there are 2 moments in this game where you make a meaty decision, and the rest of it just feels like choosing between different colored M&Ms. I can't be more specific without spoiling things, but if you play this game, you'll see what I mean. Another load-bearing, choice-based system in any BioWare game is romance, and this has its own set of issues. Top line, it's just a super old, super outdated approach to player romance. It really is just selecting the heart button whenever it appears, even when it doesn't feel right for that moment, and rarely does it feel right for that moment, by the way. You just keep hitting that button repeatedly until you nearly kiss, and then something interrupts that moment, and then you come back later, and you need to either commit to that person or permanently close off any possibility of a romantic entanglement. So for me, I was flirting with everyone, and I was making progress with everyone. I had every member of my squad ready to jump me, but at one point I thought, okay, let's give hearting a try. Commit to that, see what happens. So here's what happens. We have a scene where we kiss, there's no sex scene. We can continue whispering sweet nothings into each other's ears during dialogue exchanges or whatever, but at that point, romance dialogue options no longer appear for any other character at all. There's no option to end my relationship with Harding and switch over to someone else. Most interestingly, none of the other companions, all of whom were very hot and heavy for me, none of them mention the fact that I have spurned their affections and...
They just forget. It's like, yeah, that quest line's done. Forget about it.
Pathetic writing.
So I liked how Harding is the same height as him.
Oh, really?
In the kiss. Yeah, if you go back and see the height, it's like, oh, the similar height. It's like, oh my god.
This is silly.
What a
even if you don't
like,
if you don't care about romance, like even if you don't like, just to like turn it off like a spigot, you're like, what happened?
Oh, they care. These activists care about romance a lot, but they're obsessed with portraying all the fooling around stuff as never being harmful in any way. They love reading about relationship conflict, but they want to portray, especially for their polyamory nonsense, everything as never causing any trouble, any jealousy between anyone. That's why it's not in here, because they can't bring themselves to write it openly.
Yeah.
And yet, in Dragon Age 2, if you romance somebody and then break up with them, they get jealous if you romance someone else. It's there in the game. So say if you romance Anders, then split up with him and then went with Fenris, he's not happy about it.
Yeah,
so
much more realistic.
Did that, what, 13 years ago?
Yeah.
And now in this one, they're like, oh, you just romance Dwarf Girl. It's fine. Done. Finished.
It's like any choice.
I like the fact it's fade to black all the time. Why?
Yeah.
If you're going to do it.
Even for immature teenager writing, this is incompetent.
Yeah, I always point to New Vegas. Their design philosophy was after you do a thing, whatever you decided to do and how you solve that thing, the group that you sided with will come to you and say, hey, you did the thing. That was a thing you did. And it happens with the kings. It happens with the bigger plot points. It happens with all the groups. You always get someone running up to you and saying, hey, you're the guy. And that little acknowledgement is just like as simple and silly as that is, to tell the player, oh, you did the thing. Like, to me, that for whatever reason, psychologically, it connects with the player to say, wow, you're doing something in an RPG. And if they just did that, like with jealousy or acknowledgement of, okay, we're not a thing anymore, that's all you need. Just have a little scene where, not like, Persona 5 where you hit on every girl in the story and they all have this ridiculous Valentine's Day beatdown. Like, we don't need that specifically. That'd be awesome. Just acknowledge the player choice mattered, and this is what you get for it. That's all.
It's like in I remember when I was younger playing Fallout 3 for the first time, and you get that letter if you've been a good character, that Talon mercenaries are after you because someone's put a hit out on you, or if you've done really bad things that the regulators are after you, and it's like, oh my god, me doing my playthrough has consequences. Like, me being a good person means that these bounty hunters will be after me. And it's like, it's a nice little thing. And that was years ago. Now it's just a bit like, in an RPG, supposedly, you do something and no one notices.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, what's the point of doing it then?
Yeah. Little acknowledgement goes a long way. Anyway.
It's like all that flirting before never happened, and there's no disappointment and resentment about the fact that it led nowhere. It's consistent with what I spoke about earlier. There cannot be any actual conflict within the team, and a broken heart might make for some conflict. So instead, it's just ignored, and it really makes the entire remit system seem as cheap and as flimsy as every other decision you make in Veilguard, masquerading as something real and meaningful when it just isn't.
Please cut away.
The absence of genuine choice at both the macro and micro level makes Dragon Age of Veilguard feel entirely on rail.
Pretty much every JRPG these days has a better system than that. Even the Neptunia games of all things.
I'm trying to think of one outside of Persona. I don't really know.
Oh, more of the obscure ones that you've never heard about.
Probably.
Of choice that is dangled in front of you.
Oh, I think I've even played RPG Maker games that have better systems.
I love how it's saying express romantic interest, but does not commit to a relation, to a romance. It's like, oh, right.
Oh, you're a psychopath.
I'm interested in you, but not really. Like, what? What are you talking about? I want to flirt with you, but no? Like, what are you talking about?
That's the borderline personality choice.
Yeah.
I like the thrill of a chase.
I like you, but I don't like you. I want to keep talking to and liking everyone.
I want to do the tension game, but I don't actually want to do anything.
Yeah. I could say
I want to keep
words.
Pretending.
I could lie.
Give me the hormonal high of pretending to.
Yeah, I'll push the buttons and lie to you.
Yeah, this is how you know this is written by cluster bees.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Does anybody in this writing team have ever interacted with another human being and not just a political activist? Like, no one talks to each other like this. No one acts like this.
Hawke. The cluster bees do. The narcissists, borderliners, psychopaths, they do.
Well, I always say
that's the scary thing.
After that interview with one of our ex-liberal MPs, have her explain what the horror conversation she had with Trudeau 2 years ago. It was amazing. And of course,
I just feel like if you spoke to anyone in BioWare, they go, "Yes, I do these things like a normal human." Wink, wink. I'm like, "Why are you winking? What do you mean?" Yes, I too am also human. Wink, wink. Please stop winking. My God, what is this place?
For the greater good.
I insert coffee into my frontal mouth opening. What? I mean, my mouth.
The greater good.
All right.
Deeply frustrating because it teases a game that just isn't there, but it was there years ago in so many of the BioWare games we loved. The contrast between the past and present of BioWare's game design couldn't be more stark or more disappointing.
They also walk slowly towards each other the same way.
Is he throwing a shield like frickin'?
Oh look, it's a God of War puzzle! It's another God of War puzzle.
So this is already a pretty long review, but I do want to touch on Veilguard's...
And not God of War, but 2018 plus.
More plans, namely level design, open world activities, and of course combat. The level design in Dragon Age of Veilguard is very odd. It's essentially a collection of very narrow, labyrinthine corridors. It doesn't matter if it's a forest or a city or a necropolis or whatever, it all feels...
Tunnel levels, told ya.
The same. The game does not have any truly open spaces that you can explore or where you can make unique, surprising discoveries. This feels very counterintuitive in spaces that would naturally lend themselves to more open space. Like, one set near a beach or what's left of a battlefield. But funnily enough, it's actually kind of weirder in the cityscape areas. These cities feel more like Overwatch maps in the way they twist and turn and how they're connected by zip lines, and the only way to get from point A.
The level designs look very much like
God of War
online multiplayer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, if you see if you look at the way they're set up with zip lines and things that like double back on themselves with a lot of backtracking, it does look like, considering it was meant to be an online game with stuff. Could it be that they just took the level design from that phase of development when they had to restart and just said, "Well, we've got this. We can use what we've got here."
Yeah, maybe.
So that's what it feels like. Because with the use of the zip wires and everything like that, it just feels like, oh, this is how you can like flank.
Yeah,
your enemies and stuff.
That's not necessarily bad because some of those levels in Mass Effect 3 were actually very good multiplayer maps, and they did work within the main campaign as well. It depends. So but then that's like horde mode in multiplayer, or even in the main game. So I don't know how they do that in here. So maybe it might not work with certain gameplay scenarios. It's possible.
Well, what I'm thinking of is obviously when it was first being designed, like it says, it always wants to be like a multiplayer sort of game. So, like I say, it was very recently that they changed back to being a single player, and it must have been easier for them to just scavenge what they'd already created.
Yeah, that would make sense though. Yeah.
Up.
If you have only a few years left, that you would do that. You would just take whatever you got and work with it. Yeah.
And so that probably explains why all the levels look good. It's just the fact that they just seem very linear and almost, Overwatch like, because Overwatch is a online multiplayer game. So that's only my opinion. So
yep.
What do you think of the World of Warcraft UI?
Is it a World of Warcraft UI?
It's the standard RPG UI you have everywhere.
I thought
this is just Inquisition's HUD and UI and everything.
Yeah,
right.
It's just exactly the same.
I am so sick of the quest log on the right under the minimap. Why, if I have a real role-playing game, why do I have to have a quest log on the screen?
Isn't there an option to turn that off?
At least it's not as bad as Mass Effect 3's journal, where it didn't tell you anything about anything that you were doing.
Where am I? I don't know.
Honestly, I prefer that over this.
Yeah, but the problem is, it goes find the statue of Unga Bunga, and it's like, well, what planet is it on? Don't know. Whereabouts is it? Don't know. It's like you have to scan every planet. You're like, okay, there's hundreds of planets to scan.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, Hawke, that's the classic adventure. It's a bit too much or too little, but I in something that pretends to be back to the roots, classic RPG stuff. I want a Morrowind experience or Baldur's Gate 2, where I do get the quest log and that there are things noted in there, but really I have to keep track with pen and paper myself.
All right.
Not have it on screen of go here.
All right.
Yeah,
to the highlighted building that glows green.
If I don't mind if that's the mission you've chosen to do and it becomes your focus. It's like, oh, that's your focus. But if it's just up there because it's the most recent thing, and you're like, no, I want to look at something else, and it's like, no, this is the recent thing. You must do this. I'm like, no, please get off my screen.
All right.
I'm not interested in you. But also, like, if you go into a journal or a menu, you should be able to read it easily without having it plastered on your screen.
I'm at the point where I don't see the quest log on the right anymore. It's like ads. I do not recognize it's even there. And it's just obscuring my field of view.
All right, let's keep going.
over garden lattice and not real places. They're just video game levels. In terms of what you do in these spaces, most of it is just combat. We'll talk about that in a second. There's also side quests. I did a handful of these, but honestly, they were just very generic MMO-style side quests that involved going to a place to either kill or collect stuff. Because again, this game has no other mission variety other than that. Maybe some of the side quests that I didn't do are good. I wouldn't know. The ones that I did weren't, and so I didn't do any more of them after about the 20-hour mark. The other thing that you do in these environments is you open them up by completing puzzles. When you step into these levels, they're at first sectioned off, and you can expand them by unlocking a door or building a bridge, etc. So these puzzles, let me show you one puzzle you need to build a bridge.
I very much hope this is a tutorial puzzle. And even then it would be too weak.
Now I know you think I'm cherry picking the worst possible example, so here's another one.
Oh god. No way. It's not a tutorial.
Let's just see it. Let's see.
Is this game?
I forgot of War Ragnarok.
Is he a magician? Like, what, can he just like pick up stuff?
He moves it with his mind.
Maybe the energy cube thing is a little too heavy-handed an example. Surely there are more intricate and demanding puzzles than that. Here's one puzzle where I have to twist some statues to open a door.
Don't jump over the patient.
Here we go.
Those two statues are the spare key. Line up the symbols.
What did you mean by it's back?
That was the pushing animation? What?
We call it the Gloom Howler. I'm hunting it.
I have like half a dozen other clips that are like this that are...
No way was that a puzzle. That wasn't a puzzle.
The target audience in that NDA was, what, 25 to 34?
What, is that IQ points?
I guess.
That's wow, what great game design. Your levels are amazing.
I expect more from the inhabitants of sea parks, of water parks.
Oh my god, I have a feeling that I could just stick the controller in the hands of my 2-year-old and they could most likely complete these puzzles.
Yeah.
Wow, that is not gameplay.
Yeah.
That is not. Wow.
That is tutorial for children. That is not what your average thing should be. We need to play,
also,
look. Here's my. This is my suggestion for the game review thing. We all play Lufia: Rise of the Sinistrals. It has wonderful puzzles, and then we know what puzzles can be expected of 6-year-olds.
All right.
I'll be honest with you. Just open the book of Sudoku challenges is more puzzling than this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep going.
Most mind-numbingly stupid. It was like insulting to have to complete them. I genuinely do not understand how these made it into the game in this way. It's like BioWare thought that they needed to have some environmental puzzles, but didn't have enough time to make them good or to make them any more challenging than like that bucket with the.
I refuse to acknowledge that as a Wisp, for personal reasons. I bet the puzzle designer left the company in disgust, and then it's the dialogue writers who couldn't come up with anything better.
Put thing into other thing. I don't even know that the shit. Like, that's just a floating energy thing.
And then we slowly increase it by needing more things to put into the things. And then the next level of increase is you have to. The thing is actually hidden around the corner. And the next thing is hidden up the ladder, and that's how it's more difficult.
Yeah.
This is making Dragon Age 2's Mark of the Assassin puzzles seem like Einstein level IQ knowledge.
Oh god, remember the Inquisition stuff in Orlais? We had to find those coins of whatever. And we're on a time limit. You have to run around finding the damn Hollis statues, and as stupid as that was, you were at least on a timer.
Yeah, like as I was saying in the Dragon Age 2 DLC, to get into the vault, you've got to like find these different coloured markers, and you've got to put them to the correct door, and then you've got to like do it in a certain order, and then like mix colours together to get like put red and blue together, and and all that sort of stuff. I thought I was going through, going, well, this is pretty simple once you get the hang of it. Seeing this, wow.
Yeah, I remember the puzzle in the Sacred Ashes temple. You had to cross that bridge. Yeah, that was hard. That was like, oh, you have to think about this. How does this work? And you die. It's like, oh.
It's like there was a puzzle in Shale's DLC where you got to save that kid from that demon, and you've got to get the puzzle correct to free the kid with like flames and everything. Do you remember that one?
Oh, it's been a while. I can't remember.
Well, yeah, that was quite a difficult one. But yeah, this is just. I mean, even Inquisition had more puzzles.
Remember those crazy star things? You have to find the kaleidoscope.
Yeah, fine. Astarium or something.
They were silly, but at least they were. You have to think about it for a second. You're like, what is this pattern, and how do you get there? And they were annoying.
Oh, it's a constellation. I've got to like fix these things around and everything. It's like.
At least design-wise, they looked good, but I didn't like them because they broke the flow of what the hell is this thing? You climb a mountain.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely something that. Well, when I completed it, it was after the main mission when you can just like muck around in the open world, give you something to do. But this is just I don't know. I'm just looking at it thinking, what were they even designing? Like this makes me really now that. Like they've come out and said, "Oh, listen, you're going to be backtracking through a lot of linear maps. You're going to be doing these simple puzzles." I'm thinking, did they spend a lot of time making this game? Because this is just seeming like they've got like a bare basic game. Like they're making this is like the modern day Dragon Age 2, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah. And if they copy God of War, they could have at least have taken from the older games. And Nev in the chat mentions that the puzzles in Breath of the Wild were better, and those were pretty basic. But yeah, but you don't. These weren't intelligent people who made this game. Not in the relevant positions.
Yeah,
I'm pretty certain there's puzzles in Gears of War that are more complicated than this.
Doom.
Where you push the shapes through it. It's not just these puzzles that are half-assed, by the way, it's also open-world activities. So in addition to side quests, there are also these statues that you find which ask you to complete a quick challenge to earn some permanent, bonus health. That's fine. Here's what doing one of those statues looks like.
Oh god. So finding a thing for bonus health, so it's a collectathon.
Let's find out.
So if they do make another Dragon Age somehow magically, it will have coins lying around on the floor of the levels that you run over to collect, and so that you can buy upgrades. Why is that floaty thing? That's supposed to be an RPG puzzle?
That's it! That's the puzzle! And they're all like this. This isn't some tutorial version of it. They are all this obvious and this easy. Again, why are these in the game? If I was to guess, I would say they're intended to serve as a pacing mechanism to break...
That's God of War Ragnarok.
Oh yeah, when you think about it.
Told you.
You're throwing the spinning weapon thing.
No, you just
hit the targets. Hit the Koroks.
Why are you... Also, why is he throwing a shield and it's coming back to him?
I don't think it's a shield.
Because MCU.
Well, yeah, but he was doing that before. That's what I was looking at Captain America. But no, he's not throwing a shield. He's throwing like this weird dagger thing.
Oh.
Whatever. He is throwing a returning weapon.
Yeah.
No, but why is it whenever he...
combat, and that's an admirable goal.
No, that's his shield. So he's got a shield. And he throws it.
He does have that as a weapon, yes. But the puzzle itself is like this magical dagger, it looks like, and he's throwing that.
Yeah, but he's throwing his shield, though, because you can clearly see the shield disappear from his character model. And then it comes back.
The less combat we have to do in Dragon Age Veilguard, the better. Combat's problems are as multi-layered as every other problem in this game, but the core of it is that just as there is no meaningful choice or variation in the RPG side of Veilguard, there's also no choice or variation in the combat model. You will choose a class, in my case the warrior, and you'll have 3 abilities you can have on your hotbar at any time. There are plenty more abilities to unlock in the skill tree, but pretty quickly you realize that it doesn't really matter what those other abilities have to offer, because the lack of enemy variety and how easily those enemies are dodged, parried, or stun-locked, you really don't need to adapt your approach to anything. I can't overstate how limited the enemy design is in Veilguard. You may see enemies that look different from one another, but functionally they are almost identical, with highly telegraphed attacks that are easy.
It's like a giant Eggman here.
Spud, can you bring up the NDA for a second?
No. I want to finish this video.
No, Spud must.
It says directly, don't mention God of War.
That's fine. I don't care. Let's just keep going.
And extremely limited movesets that cannot pressure you in any way, shape, or form. No enemy in this game possesses a unique threat distinct from another enemy. You approach and dispatch every single one of them in the exact same way over and over and over again. You can switch weapons whilst playing, and that might have been an opportunity for BioWare to let you bind new abilities to that weapon type, opening up what might ostensibly look like a new combat style that you could switch between on the fly. But they didn't do this. When you switch your weapon, your abilities remain the same, so combat still feels the same whether I'm...
Wait. You have abilities that have nothing to do with your weapon? How does that... That doesn't make any sense. When you progress in an RPG, like a D&D game, like you have a specialized weapon or you have a certain build, and those abilities are specific to that weapon.
Yeah, it's like in all the Dragon Age games, if you get like two-handed skills, if you go to Sword and Shield, those two-handed skills are no use to you anymore.
You have to respec or something. Yeah, you have to do something else,
So just saying, it doesn't really matter what weapon you have, these skills work. It's like, well, no, that's stopping you like picking stuff. You just be played the same way all the time.
Yeah, if you go warrior, you either going sword and shield or two-handed weapon. Those are your options. You can't just like stop midway. I'm gonna switch over to sword and shield. It's like you can, but you're not gonna have those skills anymore.
Why have they put the big UI piece in the center where it obscures everything? Put that on the side. And this battle system is almost closer to Xenoblade, where you have the big UI piece in the corners. Bloody hell. And then roll everywhere. This is an action adventure, so not a role-playing game.
Yeah, it's very rubbery. He's very like bouncy, as opposed to like Shepard, who's like a kind of stocky. And if you do a backflip or a back roll, it's like, ugh. Or if you go to the side, as opposed to all those other multiplayer Mass Effect 3 characters who could do like backflips and front flips or whatever the dodges were and biotics. Yeah, he's just rubbery, bouncy person, regardless of class.
Yeah, from what I've seen of like the gameplay between the different classes, every single one of them is very heavy on melee attacks. And it's all about dodging and diving and rolling around and getting like hits in like that.
Yeah.
Not like the old games where it's like, well, mage stays at the back and is protected by the warriors while the rogue is picking enemies off. It's like, no, everyone's just pretty much a different version of a warrior.
Yeah, I saw the other review from Mortis, and I saw he was playing as a mage, and he was doing a ranged weird 5 attack. And then all of a sudden he went up close and did his swing. And I was like, whoa, you could swing your weapon? Like, why would you ever go up close and hurt yourself? But yeah, you could do melee attacks as a mage. I'm like, that's weird.
I mean, you could in AD&D, you could in Baldur's Gate 2. Your mage could take an arrow into his hand and use it as a melee thing. It wouldn't do any meaningful damage and you die, but you could do it.
Well, in Dragon Age 2, you can use this Mage's Staff as a melee weapon, but it's silly to do so because you've got such little health. You can get killed pretty quickly. So the fact that you can just run up to enemies and just attack them whatever as a mage.
Yeah, the point of staffs for mages in classic fantasy is as a last resort thing. Oh no, something is next to me. That shouldn't happen.
Board. Now, to be field is Rook, but you can issue orders to your party members. This in itself is a massive missed opportunity because it would have been really cool to be able to play as a different combat style. But again, BioWare did not let us do that. Your party members each have 3 abilities that they combine to their hotbars, and at first I was like, okay, that means I'll need to be carefully choosing which ability to use at which moment, and etc, etc. But no, using one ability puts all abilities on cooldown.
Yeah.
So instead of party members feel...
Same with Mass Effect 3. I don't know why they implemented that system. It makes sense if you're doing a biotic skill that you wouldn't use biotics right after the other, but it's everything. It doesn't matter, which is so silly.
And considering what the previous games have, it's such a step back.
There's no need for that. I remember in the first Mass Effect game, you would just launch everything at a boss or...
Oh, yeah.
It was fun. It was like everyone
Obviously.
just... Like all your biotics all at once, all your missiles or whatever. That was cool.
Alpha Strike.
In Dragon Age Origins, you could literally just send your entire party crazy on the Darkspawn. Like, you could be sending, like, Sten with using every single, like, skill he's picked up to just, like, slice through the enemy. Getting Liliana to, like, rain down arrows and then also, like, sneak up behind someone and stab them in the head. With this, it's like, do one thing. We've got to wait 5 minutes for it to cool down.
Don't overexert yourself.
So that's
it's just the gods destroying the world.
Yeah, but it just feels like everything is a step backwards. Do you know what I mean? It's almost as if, like I say, they've stripped everything off, stripped everything down, and they've just run out of time to release something. And they're like, well, we'll just release it with what we got.
Like when
you will laugh, but that was my first criticism of StarCraft 2, which didn't have the political problems, but Blizzard had increased complexity from game to game that they made, and then from Warcraft 3, they went from 4 races with 4 heroes each plus neutral, so that you had at the least over 500 different combinations of how players could play one-on-one, to, we have 3 races and no heroes, and you have just these 3 combinations, so fuck you.
Like actual party members, they're essentially your hotbar, one that you can hit every like 15 to 30 seconds. What makes this worse is that the game uses a primer and detonator system.
Well, that sounds familiar.
I want to use one ability on one companion because it primes a target, and I then want to use another ability on another companion because it detonates that prime target. And these detonations deal not only big damage, but also AoE damage, and so much of it that you never want to use any other ability in your arsenal. You just use the same spell combination over and over and over again, because frankly, you're playing the game wrong if you don't. So imagine...
Oh god, that's a horrible thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
There's only this one good option. Everything else is secondary or not as good. You're like, oh.
It wasn't the thing in Dragon Age that, be careful to not put spells over each other because it can have unexpected effects, and it could backfire?
Inquisition, well, the lore maybe. Inquisition, when you had armor, that was different. You had to have the right abilities to knock out armor because some skills or attacks wouldn't do that. So you had to mix it up. And if you didn't do that, then you have to wait till the armor to go down, and then you would attack again. So there was at least some strategy involved with when you would attack. You wouldn't just lay everything out on the line. So, yeah, I thought they would have fixed that or balanced it out a bit, but apparently not. Just add Mass Effect 3 combo systems and just use those, and which is really sad because I remember seeing some playthroughs of all these skill trees with all like dozens and dozens of options. Like, wow, okay. They don't matter. That sucks.
Spamming the same 3 abilities on your hotbar against the same repetitive enemy types while constantly using the exact same primer and detonator combo on your companions, and imagine doing that for 50 hours. There's a million other things I could say about this combat, like the frustratingly gated skill tree, which forces you to spend points on bullshit since you can only get a good upgrade every 10 levels, or the really basic upgrade and enchantment system which adds so little value that it may as well not be in the game. But I'll just finish by saying this. This is a world boss that I encountered early in the game. I was level 10, this thing was level 25. I would not be level 25 for another 15 hours. So that's how challenging this encounter was meant to be. Despite this, I did this encounter without dying and without a healer in my party. I just grinded him down because his moveset was so basic, so limited, and so easy to counter that all it took was time. And that's all the combat ever takes because enemies are so spongy. And like I said, I've never done this before, but at the 40-hour mark, I took the advice of a friend who lowered the difficulty to the lowest setting just because they were so over it.
Oh, so he did play story mode. Ah. Jeez, what a sad thing to say about a game. I went to story mode because the game was so boring that to get through the story or the combat so I can get to the story parts or whatever, it's like, oh my god.
The hard part was to keep going.
Yeah. Jeez.
And I cannot tell you how much better this experience was when I did that. Combat did not become better, it just meant that I no longer had to suffer through it, as enemies would die in just a few quick hits instead of soaking up dozens of them. My strong advice to you is that if you do plan to play this game, play it on normal difficulty for like the first 10 or so hours. By that point, you've honestly seen everything the Combat Sandbox has to offer. Every ability, every enemy type, every boss type.
That's...
What, 10 hours?
That's
You've seen everything? Wow. I'm telling you now, my prediction that this game was rushed out the door is coming true. It just... You can't be saying that you can see everything in the first 10 hours.
If this game is 60 or 50 to 60 hours long, I wouldn't say they rushed it, but it's so repetitive that they didn't advance the gameplay. They didn't advance the story. They didn't do much about the characters aside from giving them their individual storylines.
You can rush a game out and still make it long. You just pad it out, and this is clearly just being padded out. That's the thing.
I'm curious about the interactions with the characters and what their quest lines are all about to make it that long. Because
they just drink coffee and go on camping trips. It's
maybe
they can make it as long as they want.
Because that's the appeal of these games are the characters, and even with Mass Effect 2, it was the characters. So it's like, okay, if that's what the selling point is, and that's what gamers like, then that makes sense to do that. But the rest of the game suffers. The main plots and the combat, like the combat, which you're going to be doing most of the game, is the same. That's pretty sad.
Do you remember what I said about Galactica? That was rushed out as well. Cheap ripoff of the game it copied. Less functions, less functionality than the 6-year-old game it copied. And also rushed out in the end and financed with tax money.
Huh.
There's a pattern of games like this coming out right now that have been in development hell forever and then come out, are buggy, horribly written, and lack functionality, and tax funded. And it's just, I think this is we do see the steep cliff of the woke era in the video game industry. This is a signal of that.
Yeah, this is like, if someone were to give me this game, I don't really want to play it. It doesn't look fun.
If someone gave me this game, I'd punch him in the face and say, "All right, so you're my enemy, then, have you? You have chosen death."
this is what you said last time. It's like, I'm gonna torture someone. Here's this. You can only play this game. It'll install yourself on your console. It's like a virus. You can't play any other game until you.
Yeah, like what Mark said. Yeah, it's just a bit like, oh my god.
My name is Inigo Montoya, and you have murdered my game series.
Like that. Someone give you this game, you'd be like, oh come on, man, can't you just fuck my wife or something? Something else, something less horrible.
Oh god.
Lower the difficulty at that point and focus on the story, because I really wish I had taken that advice far earlier.
Give us the Dreadwolves down.
Everyone suit up. All hands for this one.
So I want to be clear that the finale of this game is actually fantastic. It's a 2-hour gauntlet, and while the combat side of it remains the same, there are multiple impactful decisions to be made, there are multiple meaningful revelations, there are multiple thrilling set pieces full of action and emotion.
So you had to slog through 60 hours to get through the last hour and a bit.
That was probably written by the original writers,
which they should have done in the first 10 minutes. And then and this is the problem with game design. This is what I was taught back in school. If you have a fun thing, like someone puts a rocket launcher in a game, you're like, oh my God, this thing like blows things up. People get pounded back and all this fire. It's like, start with that and then go even higher or further or longer with that mechanic, and then use it, get a new mechanic, get a new weapon, whatever. That's what you do. You don't wait. People want to have fun now. They want to have amazing fun. Yeah. And there's all these ways of hooking people in, story-wise, music-wise. Gameplay is the way to do it, always. And if you can do that with your gameplay...
This is the exact opposite of what this is about Mass Effect 3, where they're like, well, yeah, of course the last hour is bad, but think of all the, how good the rest of the game was. Obviously, we know that years later as a complete lie. Now they resorted to, I know the first 60 hours are terrible, but those last 2 hours are half decent.
But that's not worth this waste of a hell. And Force Unleashed 2 started with this high point where it's a great roller coaster, and then it dropped off. That's where it should have kept going. Well, at least it was in the right order.
Apparently, we got the first 10 or 20 minutes where we see Solus and he's opening the gate, and you have to go around knocking down that statue to stop him. Like, that's the first 20 minutes or whatever of the game. And that's fine. Like, that's a good way to get things, the ball going. But from there, you got to...
In the most stupid way.
It's dumb. Yeah, well, the scaffolding is kind of retarded, but whatever. If you could amp it up from there, then great. But you have to think in terms of game design. How do I do that? Not, here's a linear environment where stuff happens. Here's a plot point where we have another linear environment where stuff happens. Like, really? That's what you're going to do? Give us something fun and then crank it up from there and just keep going. And then you make the argument, well, we have to slow it down to have the dramatic moments, or maybe you intersperse them with the actual action. That could always work. There's lots of ways to do the hooks and the variety. And you can't just keep going. You can't, obviously you can't just amp it up all the time. People are going to get tired of that. So you have to like have acts that things slow down. That's why we have a 3-act structure or 4-act structure in stories. It's the same concept with games. Amp it up, slow it down, amp it up.
What you need to do is bore your audience to death, and then hopefully the last 2 hours wakes them up out of the coma you've slipped them into. And that's all they remember.
Remember watching Gingaman play the original, was it God of War 2, I think the second game? Mm-hmm. And he kept getting new weapons and new abilities, and it was just like, oh, now you could use a bow and arrow. That's cool. Now you can use this hammer thing. That's cool. Like, it just kept getting more new stuff. Like, that's fun. How could I use this? How does it work? Is it a tool? Is it a weapon? That's what you got to think about.
Well, it's like when I've just said I've recently started Saints Row 2 again, and you unlock better and bigger guns and more crazier cars and everything as you progress through the story. And it's like, oh my god, I've got this, I can do this now and everything like that. But it's a continual build up until the end. So you don't get anything really good straight away. You slowly build, well, not slowly build up, but it's a gradual increase.
Yeah, and with
RPGs, it's like, oh yeah, I can enjoy the whole game. Yeah. With this, it's like, 60 hours of boredom, and then 2 hours of alrightness.
Yeah, and with RPGs, there's the whole idea of customization. Like they show the skill tree. If you can allow to respec, you say, oh, I've been doing Sword and Shield for the past 10 hours. I'm really good with it. I got some skill points or whatever. This layout works, and then you find a new double-bladed weapon or double-handed weapon. You're like, oh, that looks really good. I'm gonna respec and try that out. Maybe it's not your style, and that's the RPG-ness. You could play around with it, and you say, I don't like it. I'm gonna go back to Sword and Shield. Great, no problem. That's what you want to do. You want to customize. You want to have some customization. You can't just keep going, bigger rocket launcher, bigger. Have some variety. So they just didn't do any of that game design. They just said, okay, here's the system we have, and that's it.
From the looks of it, that first 20-minute demo we saw with Barrick talking to Solus, that is just the entire game repeated
I think
for 60 hours.
Yeah.
It's
Conflict.
like, wow.
Get to character who's further away in the map, go through all the maze, and then cutscene.
Then have picnic with fake romance.
Yeah, have a interlude and then go do it again. Yeah.
Wow.
Final 2 hours. You cannot but think to yourself, but the reality is that the rest of the game is not remotely like that. The rest of the game is meandering and dull and childish, and all of its systems are so surface level. And that is my biggest criticism of Dragon Age the Veilguard.
Can you imagine if they had, again, I say this, part of my Fixing Mass Effect 2 series, a series of setups for suicide missions, so like a mini suicide mission, then a better suicide mission, same concept. You screwed up over here. Okay, great, we got to fix that up for the next one. We'll train you. We'll get you some better equipment. We'll spend more time with that. You get a new guy. You get a teacher. Whatever. Like that's what you want to do. It's a one giant Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12 story. It's just constantly getting better and better.
Can I ask a question? You know this Tash character? Is she actually a member of the Qunari?
I don't know.
I don't know. It looks like they took instead of making a Qunari, they took a black African, modeled the face a little bit, made it grey, and then made it big and muscly.
Not obviously not by look, but I've been having a lot of discussions on Twitter about it, and I mean, I say discussions. I mean, mentally retarded people can't comprehend English writing. This, like you say, obviously the design looks bad, but she keeps quoting Qunari scripture and everything like that. But then at the same time, people who are saying that she can obviously like come out as non-binary to her family are saying that she's not Qunari. But then she follows the Qun, and then people are going like, well, we don't know what the Qun is. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm talking to people who've never even played a Dragon Age game who are liking this.
It's like someone from, I don't know, Italy, and they come over to the States, and they could still speak the Italian language, but they grew up culturally in the States. So they have that Italian USA style of Italianism.
No, it's more like if you were a Catholic, came over to America, set up a church, and was like teaching sermons, but then said, I'm not Catholic actually, but I just quote Catholic scripture.
I like how it says a girl masters herself in the whatever. It's like, are you a girl? I can't remember.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. She's non-binary, so why should he say a girl? Oh my god, they can't even. This is amazing. This is the thing. They can't even keep their bloody new law straight.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I never noticed this. They forgot to invent a new name that is between boy and girl.
Yeah,
like Burl or Goy. Oh god, that already exists.
Goy.
Oh! I see what they did there.
Oh dear. All right.
No, I'm just saying. I'm sorry. It's just because obviously on Twitter, I try to explain to people that obviously Qunari law, it's weird how it's always been changed, and everyone's like trying to defend it, saying, well, Qunari can do whatever they want to do because it's such a free-willed society and everything like that. I'm like, do you know what the Qunari are? They're like a religious cult that kills anyone who thinks differently.
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's not.
Oh, you mean they're fascists?
Oh dear. Anyway.
Oh no.
We got some super chats. We'll get on with the video. Here's from Turmoil. Thank you, sir, for the 2. Looking to watch Heels vs. Babyface play tomorrow? Oh, he's going to have fun. Oh dear. Yeah.
The poor man.
Yeah, I know.
He has my support.
Yeah, I'll check that out for sure. The Thread Knot again for the 5. Thank you, sir. My name is Inigo Montoya. You give me Dustborn, Assassin's Woke Shadows, and Dragon Age Veilguard, Prepare to Die. Yeah, I know. It's a weird sentiment. Did you know that they're coming out with an Assassin's Creed game now every 6 months?
What? How? Is that desperation? Is that the corpse flailing just before it finally leaves its last breath?
Maybe they've got like an AI generator to just pump out a story every 2 weeks.
With the quality that we saw in the trailer, with the floating door and the sword not in the sheath, I can imagine that they can do it in 6 months.
Yeah.
How can you release a game every 6 months? Even like slot like FIFA and Madden takes a year. That's just
that's because they have to wait for the new roster of players.
Yeah, I know that, but they literally do nothing like to improve any of the games, and it's like, yeah, that's after a year. Can you imagine 6 months worth of development? But not just 6 months, every 6 months. Wow.
Yeah, that was.
I'm saying wow a lot because I'm just bamboozled by the way the world is.
That was the board of directors actually said that, so I was like, wow, that's impressive. So, whether it's good or bad, we'll find out. Anyway, the last one is from Clay Braun Perkins. If you can get 30 seconds of fun, you can pretty much stretch that out to be an entire game. Jamie Greisemer, former Bungie lead game designer. Really? Huh.
It says former.
Yeah.
Well, there is some point to that. If you have a good gameplay loop, then that can be true.
It is possible, but that's a very, very.
I mean, look, that's what's how long is a Mario Brothers level? The original Mario Brothers.
A minute and a half.
Yeah. That's a gameplay loop. Run from left to right, jump over things, and that's it.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of a change there. It's not the exact same loop.
Yeah, there's variations in that all the time to keep it fresh, and there's even in the original Mario Brothers one, you have mini jump puzzles, like very preliminary ones, but they you can call them that. But in the end, that's your loop.
All right. Anyway, we have 4 minutes left. Yeah, we're almost there.
Surface level. It has companions. Their stories are any deeper than a puddle. It has a romance system, so it ticks that box, but it feels so awkward and cheap. It regularly offers you the choice to choose between this thing or that thing, but those decisions don't really mean anything. It has puzzles and side activities that feel almost placeholder, and it has this very flashy looking combat system that presents really well in a preview slice, but when you have to spend any more than a few hours with it, you see just how hollow and repetitive it is. I really struggled a great deal with how to write this review, and that's not like performative hand-wringing when I say that, by the way. As I've matured in this job, I've become far more aware of how I talk about games, striving to do so in a way that is both critical and constructive. And so as I look back over this script, I really wish I had more constructive things to say. But the truth is, I don't, and I'm no good to anyone if I'm not totally honest about how I feel about a video game. I would again stress though that this is just my opinion, and I know there are people out there who do enjoy this video game, so my only ask is that in addition to watching this review, please go and seek out the more positive ones as well. Find people with whom this game resonated, because this game might resonate with you too. And as I've said many times before, I would hate for my take...
What a horrible thing to say. I hate this. I hate this, but you know what? You might like it. It's like, what are you talking about? You just described how horrible this game is.
Yeah, but the NDA forces him to be nice.
This is so stupid.
So this is weaseling through that and still saying with flowers and sugar coating, like, oh god, don't play it.
He's literally said, right, listen, this is how bad this game is, but you could always watch someone else and they could, like, back up your own delusions towards this.
The funny thing is,
believe it's fine.
If we do this, we go watch the IGN, and every comment, every single one, I went through about 3 pages, every single one was either quoting this review or just saying how horrible this game is, how much of a paid shill the IGN is. The other games they reviewed that had lower scores, which were amazing.
The guy who reviewed it for IGN is like, well, as a non-binary person, it's like, wow.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, he's non-binary.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my god.
And everyone's literally like, well, the person who reviewed it for IGN comes out as non-binary. God. You're like, wow, what a shocker that is. Because he starts gushing about the Tash coming out scene, and I'm like, good lord.
Yeah, so he gets his fetish high.
Yeah,
which is weird.
But that's the only positive
because
he goes on about.
Because non-binary people are supposedly not sexual, so
No, what you mean is asexual.
Well,
yeah, asexual.
They don't get
that's the other bullshit.
Word salads.
They're salads. I'm a plant. Like what? Okay.
No, it's just.
There are plant-identifying people.
I reproduce asexually. What are you talking about?
They're just mistaking low libido for that. But they have also redefined asexual to meaning, you can also have a libido and a sex drive, but you also identify as asexual. But nothing means anything anymore.
What?
It doesn't mean the definitions don't matter. If you like a word, you that's yours now, and nobody's allowed to criticize it.
Oh God! All right. If you have
someone just said in the comments, he's scared of getting pushback. It's like don't be a critic if you can't accept pushback.
Yeah. If you have to declare your whatever-ness, especially when you're talking about sexuality in anything, stop. Don't do it. If you want to talk about, as a person of a certain culture, I know this story, I know this thing. If the story is about that culture, then you should bring that up. Or if you know one of the developers or designers, you should bring that up because people should know that before you start. But if you say, by the way, I'm a trans activist, blah, 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 you're like, oh, that's what you are? And you're reviewing this game? Gee, I wonder what's going to be the score at the end. I don't have to read the thing. Oh, it's a 9 out of 10.
That's just these scores now. They don't give us any indication about the quality of a game, only about the propaganda level of it. So a 9 out of 10 means it is extremely good at being filled with the propaganda.
Yeah, I've been inundated with the American political machine as it's an election year. We got an election coming up in a week with the Americans, and it's kind of funny when you hear the insane stuff from the left-leaning news media and the insane stuff that Kamala has been... I could not believe it. It is so retarded. I'm not saying you should...
Here in Europe too. All our newspapers all run headlines of how awesome Kamala Harris is and how Trump is going to destroy the world.
It's not quite Pravda, but you're basically 85% there. And there's like the one guy on the show on the panel who's like she's getting worse, she's horrible, blah blah blah, and they just forget about that guy's opinion. But at least they have that, right? It's like she said, I could not believe this. She was at one of her rallies. They're chanting her name, Kamala, and she goes,
Kamala.
Yeah, and she goes, now chant your name because it's really all about you. And all the people are like, what? They're stunned. They don't know what to do. Do we just whisper her name?
That's not how. That would be a cacophony. That is such an amazing metaphor because if everybody chants their own name, you get a cacophony. You get complete disaster and chaos, which is exactly what the left is creating.
And she has no idea how to talk to people. It's so funny.
Just got a comment. Lucas Monet, didn't know this podcast got political sometimes. Sorry, but I don't think this podcast is for me. Boy, you stepped into the whole thing.
The reason why we brought this up is because these reviewers, especially IGN, start off political. And I hate to talk about these things. I don't like politics. It's kind of boring. And if you want to make a woke game, go for it. I really don't care. But when you take established franchises, characters, lore, whatever, and you twist it into something it's not, then you have to talk about it. And that's why I got pissed off today. We didn't talk about this at all. But I got really excited about that clip that you showed me about Isabella. Isabella's in this game. Isabella from Dragon Age 2, that very, not slutty, but kind of flirty, sexualized pirate queen, which she ever calls herself. And they completely butchered her. They changed her boob size for some reason. They changed her outfit. They changed her whatever attitudes towards sex. Everything was weird. And I got offended. And I'm going to make a video about this tomorrow and I'll post it. But this is what the game has become. This is what BioWare has become. And I hate to talk about that. So anyway, let's just get on with the video. We got 2 minutes left. I think it's pretty much done anyway. So
Whisp, your keyboard's clicking really loud.
Yeah. I didn't. The off button on the mic doesn't always work.
So disappointing that I cannot muster any enthusiasm or excitement for the Mass Effect project that BioWare are currently working on. I hope they get the chance to make that game, and I hope it succeeds where Veilguard failed. But if either of those things are to happen, it's going to be against all odds, because I think Veilguard will mark a permanent shift in the way we talk about BioWare, and it's a shift that makes me really sad.
What an ending. Oh my god, the guy just dies.
Oh, hold on, just saying about that cutscene there of him holding his head with all that blood, that's a serious injury to the back of your head.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah. So is this trying to say that Veilguard's just a fever dream?
I hope so.
a dying fever dream.
At the end, Tosh was just a fantasy in my head. I thought of like, what?
It turned out he was never actually like the chosen one, or the other gods never returned. He just slipped on an apple, cracked his head open,
woke up.
He's slowly bleeding out.
Yeah. That would make some sense. I mean, I'd take it.
But to make the point, he's backtracked on every single thing he's said, just said, "Oh, just go listen to someone that agrees with you."
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, right, okay.
So the last part is
anyway.
He's advertising brilliant, whatever that is. All right, yeah, we're done. Okay, we're good. We can call it a day.
Oh,
what a fun game!
Wow, sad.
It's totally not God of War. By the way, you're not allowed to say that it's totally like God of War in the NDA.
All right,
this is so great.
Do we have memes? We have some memes from yesterday. We'll have some memes today. Let's see what we got. This is from the 29th, so yesterday. Here we go. Modern gaming. Wait a minute. I only play games I actually like. Where are you going? This is a perfectly good moment to engage in rage bait.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's how I feel like nowadays. I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll say my bit, but then it's like,
I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture. What is this?
That's on the left is a character from Veilguard.
Shrek.
And on the right, it's one of the ugly sisters from Shrek.
Oh my god. She looks more realistic.
I thought it was the other way around.
The guy on the right, or the girl on the right, looks more realistic than the one on the left.
At this point...
Look at his face, he's so elongated. He's like his huge head. He's just like, his hair, everything's tall. But he's like 5'4" or whatever.
Didn't you remember yesterday when you kept talking about how the fact that all the heads are not like in proportion?
Yeah, I guess.
To like their bodies, it's like, oh my god. I noticed it more and more in the video that it does feel like they're all like
bobbleheads. This is great. Look at Dragon's Dogma 2. It came out months ago. It actually looks like a female. You're like, yep, that's a female.
Mm-hmm. For all the talk of inclusivity, they really have just gone, well, we're going to make sure you can become a trans person. There's the other genders. It's like, okay, can you at least make us, you can't just go heavily towards one thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to be inclusive, do everything.
The thing is, when real trans people, they don't want to look like weird in between Frankenstein things. They want to blend in. They want to look like the actual thing, and the entire thing. So, and the problem that the left faces is that they can't portray that because then it would actually be invisible.
Oh my god, is that Legolas and Frodo?
Yeah.
I can't tell. It's so fucking scary. It's like the what's that? The blue steel look from.
Yeah. I can't remember what it's from, but yeah, it's
Zoolander.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm cracking up. It looks
so man. That's a
Is that the Lazy Town overlay?
Oh god, I gotta calm down.
Man.
Oh god, yeah, that is funny. Jeez. I need a good laugh. That was it, man. That is. What is that? Oh.
I've got to stop looking at it because I keep cracking up every time I look at the screen.
Oh, here we go. Dragon Age 2. The Era Shock looks fantastic. Inquisition looked like a giant bull man, which is over the top, but fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
it's at least a fantasy monster.
They blew it up. It's fine. And then in four.
4 is the African elf.
The thing is, though, when you meet the Arashok, he's so intimidating the way he looks.
Yeah,
I know what this is. This is the sparkling vampire version of the Qunari.
It could be.
That's a different way of putting it, I guess.
Oh, well.
Seeing the animation and hearing the dialogue. Oh, my God. Kermit, what are you doing?
Kermit, no!
Diazepam just like, play this instead of Veilguard. Bound by Flame. I heard some good stuff. Yeah, it's been a while.
Oh.
You can't just have your characters announce how they feel. That makes me feel angry.
Yeah.
Teach TV. Way too cold. My son just asked if we can move out of Canada. There's a good idea. What do we got here?
Mm-hmm. I heard they're building camps in the forest now that have proper plumbing.
That's so sad. Oh, the poor kid. Oh.
Ooh.
The ball got stuck in the frozen net. That's good.
Oh,
if you really, I mean, I was a kid once and I got snuck out of the house just to play outside, and my mom was like, "No, it's freezing cold. You can't go play outside." I was like, "I still wanted to play." All the snow was frozen. I couldn't grab it with my gloves.
Snow tends to be frozen. That is true.
No, there's no. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a hilarious thing where a guy jumps out of his window because the snow's quite high, and he thinks obviously his snow's going to be soft. And he lands straight on it. It just like slides down. You hear him go, "Oh!"
Oh, it was iced over.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's like
a person is born Qunari or human or elven or dwarf. He doesn't choose that. The size of his hands, whether he's clever or foolish, the land he comes from, the color of his hair, these are beyond his control. We do not choose, we simply are.
Yes. And you know, our constitution in my country was written to not judge people's worth based on that, which also means that you can't take and give people based on those attributes either, which means equity is illegal because the Nazis did this shit.
what's that Iron Ball says?
In Kunandar, sounds like a Ferengi planet, but okay. Kremd, being Akun Athlock, that's what we call someone born one gender but living like another. Oh, geez. I remember that.
Yeah. They've really... this is like the clearest example of them changing what the Qunari are, and people just will not accept it, but they've changed it.
Yeah. Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? No, yeah, kiss him? What the...
Requires rank of master, so he can't.
Oh.
See, but yeah, that Qunari change sounds fake and gay.
Here we go. Oh, this is an old one. I love this one. I want to be a dragon. That came out back in the day. I remember it.
Yeah.
Fallout 4 has no real dialogue options. What? Sarcastic yes, no, yes later, and yes. The queer consultant who worked on Dragon Age: The Veilguard has an interesting history as an author. The queer consultant? Why would you?
Oh yeah, this one.
Oh yeah, they said they asked totally a lot of totally gay and trans people, and that's how they wrote the game.
Queer why do you need a consultant? What does that have anything to do with anything?
So that they do the queer right.
What?
You know, so that is properly quirky, not fake quirky.
Also, I like how they've dead named Patrick Weeks as well.
What happened to Patrick Weeks?
Oh, he's non-binary.
What? He's married.
He goes by Trisha Weeks now.
What? He's married.
Yeah, he's come off of Twitter, gone to that, was it Blue Sky or whatever it is, and yeah, he's Trisha Weeks, and he's non-binary. Well, they are non-binary.
Oh, that's LKD. That's the crazy one that helped drive TB insane.
Best times for later.
I'm so surprised by this, Scott. It's been like all over the news.
Come
and everything.
again later, Spider.
What the? All right, here's our last one. I'm not going to read that. That is just too tiny. Return to form. What is that?
Oh yeah, in that NDA, they've been told, well, from what it says is, all reviewers must say that that Veilguard is a return to form for BioWare. So
That's
people
weird.
have noticed that every single review is every single positive review is saying it's a return to form.
Okay, I gotta check that out because that sounds way too.
Man,
weird.
and we wonder why all these things look like they're all. God, is there an English word for Gleichschaltung? That they're all put on the same rail. Well, it's a socialist term where that the Nazis did, where they forced everything to work exactly the same way and say exactly the same things.
All right.
No, but I'm just laughing about the fact you just said, is there an English word for this German word? I'm like, I don't know. I don't speak German.
All right, guys.
Not only don't you speak German, you also don't speak Nazi.
That was our 2.5 hour finishing off of the very detailed and very sad look at the state of BioWare's latest game, which is coming out tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
So I might do a plot analysis later, not anytime soon. I won't play it, but I'll.
Someone asked in the comments that if someone like sent you all the cutscenes, would you do a plot analysis from watching them?
What I would do is I would just watch a Let's Play that has no commentary, and I'll just go from there. I don't want to play it because I don't have the time.
Yeah. I'm sure somebody makes a long play of this.
There's all kinds, and I'll just go from there. I'll try. I mean, it's really not anything I'm interested in anymore because BioWare is just like I didn't do one of Anthem because Anthem was a joke.
Yeah, what story is an Anthem anyway?
Yeah, but that's what I feel this is like. It's just 60 hours of just nothing. And can you imagine? Remember the plot from Inquisition? It's like, okay, we're gonna go here because Corey's over here. Okay, we defeat him. Oh, he ran away. Okay, and then Corey's gonna send his minions out. Oh, we defeat them, and then we run away, and then it's just like it's all it is. It's just over and over again.
Yeah,
I find it very tedious, and the voice acting is at least they had good voice. Like they had Leliana and they had Cassandra and they had a few other good voices. Those are at least fun. It's the plot that just it's just dull.
At least Inquisition pretended to be a continuation of something.
There was imports. They had dramatic sacrifice. They had heroes that you wanted to meet. They had, I don't know what exactly Morgan was doing in Orlais, but she was trying to figure something out. So there was some logic. There was like, okay, but how things turned out, why things turned out the way they did, fighting with all, like the entire wardens were just absolutely brainwashed morons. You're like, you can't be, you're killing yourself? Really? Because someone says they can help you? Like that is can you imagine that? I don't want you to kill yourself because, you're going to turn into a demon. Like,
also, what made me laugh was the fact that it was just the Elysian Wardens that were doing it, and it wasn't like any other Wardens. So it was a bit like, why don't you just ask someone else and say, "Oh, are you having the same things?" And if they go, "Well, no," then you're being brainwashed. Also, whoever thought bringing a demon has never been a good idea? Even the Wardens know that.
They just misunderstood.
They have the Soldier's Peak DLC even shows that when they bring demons through, the Wardens don't like it when Avernus and Sophia Dresden or whatever her name is. So, well, there's me going off my Dragon Age lore again. What do I know? Because I'm just a bigot.
All right. Well, I will definitely make that video over that clip you guys showed me. It is, if you guys haven't seen it, check it out on Twitter or post it publicly and we'll show it to you.
Oh God.
It is. I had to go exercise. I was so angry.
I've never seen you that angry. Well, not seen you angry, but seen you type that angry before.
Yeah, that was a new one.
I couldn't believe it. I watched a little bit. I had to pause it and calm down and then get it out of my system and watch more. And I just kept getting angrier. And I couldn't believe how bad that was.
Now you know how I felt with Bayonetta 3.
I know. It's it's one of those precious things you have in your memory, even though like Dragon Age 2, as dumb as it was, like I remember some of those dialogues, like Isabella flirting with Varric and his chest hair and all that. Like she's such a flirt. She's so open sexually. She would never act that way. She would never go, oh, I'm going to go do some push-ups to punish myself for saying a word. Like, what? You're making jokes about the Orlesian in the house, how dirty it is, and you're laughing with Varric about this weird prissy girl. Or, was a prostitute. She making that joke about... It was a prostitute joke. She was like doing wordplay with that. It was like, she's a dirty girl. She would never care about words.
She called Aveline like a stuck-up prig.
Oh yeah, she wrote porn about Aveline. That was hilarious. She wrote an entire. She called it friendfic or what? It was so funny. Like she just wrote porn about her friend, and Aveline's like, "What did you do?" And Varric's laughing at her. It's like, it's so good. As dumb as that game was, they had some really great lines and the characters were great. So, and as soon as you hear being a prissy, whatever you want to call, politically correct person doing push-ups, it's just so...
That entire scene wasn't like meant for enjoyment. It was just a political lecture. I felt like I was sat down in school and we're being lectured at by a teacher about how you should behave, and I'm like, wow, I'm 30 years old, I can do what I want.
Yeah, because none of these characters are acting like grown-ups.
And it was one thing...
They're all acting like children.
It was one thing if the person next to her was offended, but she just immediately started exercising like to do her punishment, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what does this mean?
It's preemptive, because we can't show negative emotion. Everything... do you remember how George Orwell described the newspeak as being made so that you can't feel negative emotion, so you can't say something is bad, you have to say it's double plus ungood.
Oh god, yeah.
That's what this is. That's the pathway there.
Only thing...
the negative emotion is only reserved for the designed enemy. For your 2 minutes of hate.
The only thing Isabel would have done is laugh it off or call her a prig or you do you, honey, whatever. Like, it would just be so off the cuff, who gives a shit? That's how, because she sees sexuality as just a fun thing. It's not a punishment game or some weird, like, it's so silly. And I got so angry because you have to understand, Canadians are dealing with this crap the past 4 years, or since Bill was C-51 or
C-16.
There's 4 others. I can't remember the numbers. And we've had this for a while. And if we say anything nonsensical, we could get fined or whatever.
Yeah, that's welcome to what East Germany was like.
Yeah, and hopefully by today or tomorrow, as I said, our separatist leader of the third largest party in Canada is going to bring an ultimatum to Parliament, hopefully tonight or tomorrow, and get an election going. But you can only hope.
Oh, nice. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my
election in the UK.
Yeah, more elections. You just had one. More elections.
Yeah, we need a new one. They've just brought the budget out.
What
today.
you need is a new election system, because I saw the voter turnout and what the number of votes and what seats that resulted in. And I'm sorry, that's not a serious system. That's nonsense.
Anyway, guys, thanks for listening.
You can just roll dice, and that will be more appropriate.
Go watch that video clip if you want to get infuriated, and if you're a fan of Dragon Age, you will be. And we will talk to you soon. I will do a video tomorrow. We'll take it easy. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
And if you have an interesting video